Wow, it's so good to see so many people coming into the six screens already. Well, my name's Rick Farron. I'm here in Massachusetts. I am at the apostate capital of the world, as we say, right up here in Boston. And we got some good programming coming up tonight. We got Dick and Constance Borghi. Well, they'll be exposing the Watchtower. And boy, their program is really doing well and getting a lot of new people coming in, and how they would really love to have you call into their program tonight. The telephone number is scrolling across the bottom. If you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, if you're on our radio telephone network, all you have to do is hit *6 and speak up. But anyways, we're so glad we're seeing more and more people coming into six screens every Saturday night. So let's bring Dick and Constance on right now. Give us a second to do that, and see if we can't do that. Minimize. Okay. All right, that feature. Let's bring him on the stage. Okay, there they go. Hold on one second. Just a little issue here with why isn't that working? Add to stage. Okay, well, it should be on here now.
There we
Oh,
are.
there they are. Okay. They keep changing the software here on me, and sometimes it's hard to press the right buttons. But how you guys doing?
We're doing
Good.
wonderful, Rick.
Good,
We're
Rick.
just doing terrific. And we're
Excellent. Well, that's always
program. Yeah, we're really thrilled to have a program on six screens. And I would say to anybody out there, when you listen to six screens, you're going to get a really good insight in how absolutely corrupt the Watchtower is. And I would say to anybody out there, if you have PTSD from being in the cult for many, many years, if you have a program like we have on six screens, it's a tremendous help in getting out of the PTSD syndrome. So if you're thinking about having a program, talk to Rick, and I'm sure it can be arranged. That's my little intro.
Well, Dick, in fact, I was going through some news today, and I came across a man on Reddit, and he got out of the organization. He was in for, I think he said 40 years, and he got out, but he was suffering from all kinds of trauma and PTSD, and he went to a psychiatrist, and he charged him $400 to talk to him, but the psychiatrist helped him a little bit. But I'm thinking, Dick, here people can come on. I was talking to Susan this morning, my wife, and she was saying how when she was getting out of the organization, she listened into the six screens, and she went to plenty of therapists and what have you, trying to get the Watchtower out of her head. But she said when she listened in here and heard all the people talking and saying how they've been touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower, it helped them more than anything. So people might not even have to spend a whole lot of money to try to deprogram themselves by listening in here. It can be very helpful, and you guys are helping a lot of people. Now, your last program, you hit I think it was a little over 2,000 people, which is really climbing good. So you're coming up on the ranks here, and you're really doing good, and we're all proud of you. We got a lot of people already on here right now, ready to come in. So I'm going to get out of your way and let you take it over.
All right. Thank you, Rick. And just to piggyback a little bit on what Rick was saying, when you're listening to six screens, you feel you're not alone. You're in the same boat as thousands of other people that have questions. It's cathartic. And as Rick alluded to, somebody was paying $400 an hour to talk to a psychiatrist. Yeah. Every single time that I've done a program on six screens or have commented, the PTSD is a little less. The sad thing about, the insidious thing about PTSD is you don't know you have it. You just don't know you have it till it finally clears out of your psyche, and then you can be relieved. And there's a monkey off your back. I know a lot about PTSD because I had to go to vet groups for my time as a Marine in Vietnam. And I learned a lot about it. So I bring it up a lot on six screens because so many people are suffering from it. Oh, yeah. And they just don't know it. Listening six screens is free. Rick doesn't charge anything. It's free. That's right. And I know a lot of people have been helped over the 20 years that Rick has been doing this. Yeah. There's been a lot of changes in the last decade with Jehovah's Witnesses, with the governing body. with their theology that they're presenting to people. And when you look at it combined, you say, oh my God, these people, they don't know what the heck they're talking about. They're certainly not inspired, because in ancient Israel, if you said Jehovah wants us to go over this mountain and find a lake of water, and you were believed, by the elders in the nation of Israel, you went over the mountain and there was no lake of water, you were stoned to death because you were a false prophet. If that was happening today, the governing body would all be stoned to death. And you know what? They'd probably deserve it for all the death that they have caused with their no blood transfusions and so forth. And that's the main theme that we're going to get into, is the reversal on the blood transfusions. But I want to build a kind of a case for the audience to realize that the Watchtower has been changing its theology, prophecies.
Yeah.
They've been changing them for months. Yeah. And they'll also say, you have to believe us because we're inspired by our Heavenly Father. Now, recently, in the last few years, they come out and said, well, we're really not inspired. And we can get it a little bit wrong. What's that guy's name?
Jeffrey Winger.
Winger. He goes like this. Get a little bit wrong. It's like, I was telling Connie, she got a laugh out of it the other day. You want to go surfing in California, and you're living in one of the states in the middle.
Kansas.
You're living in Kansas. So you get in your car, you put the surfboard on top, and you start driving, and you drive for 3 or 4 days, and you run into an ocean. It's the Atlantic Ocean. You're on the wrong ocean. And then Jeffrey went, well, we got it a little wrong.
It should have been the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
They got a little bit wrong. And so we're going to go into some of the stuff they got a little wrong. One thing that they'd like to tell people is that they are the faithful and discreet slave. At one time, it was the anointed in different congregations throughout the world. They were the anointed. They were the ones that are going to rule as kings and priests in heaven with Jesus. And now they just threw that out the window. Nope, it's us. And one of the reasons, in my opinion, they're doing that is because they want to be worshipped here on the earth. They've got nose up in the air, and they think that they're not slaves. They want to be cowed down to. They want to be worshipped. They want to live in beautiful trappings up there in Wallkill. They want the best of everything. They don't fly coach. They fly first class. They don't stay in Hotel 6. they stay at the Four Seasons. This is who they are. This is who they are. Okay, the thing we want to talk about, I'm trying to build a little scenario around this blood transfusion stuff. At one time, transfusions in all of its forms was a no-go. They were a violation of Jehovah's laws. And if you took a blood transfusion, you could be disfellowshipped. And people were. Not only does the Watchtower break up families with divorce and disfellowshipping, they break up families with not taking blood, and people die. A lot of people have died. We're going to get into that a little later on in the program. Now they've come out with a new thing saying that when Armageddon breaks out, you can run to Jehovah's organization, even if you're not a baptized witness, and you'll be saved.
Like at the very last minute.
At the very last minute, before they taught you had to be, a card carrying Jehovah's Witnesses, turning in time, and be fully dedicated. Otherwise, you die at Armageddon.
That's a big contrast from the time when we were in.
Oh, yes.
With 1975. Boy, everybody was pounding the pavements, huh? Going door to door.
Yeah, they were saying that Armageddon was going to come in 1914, in 1925, and then 1975.
Mm-hmm.
Those of you who were around then, I'm 77, so I remember it because I started getting the Jehovah's Witness
Early 70s.
message. Yeah,
We
1970,
both
71.
did. We're the 1975 crowd.
I mean, it affected, I think, I mean, it affected me, but other people had really, I would have spent 20 or 30 years in the Marine Corps because I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no other, nothing else I could do, but,
Well, you really enjoyed it.
I did. And
You
I
really
went through
enjoyed being a Marine.
I went through the hard stuff, the boot camp and the Vietnam and the whole bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was ready to, and I had really good assignment. I was on honor guard duty. It's just the best assignment you can get in the Marine Corps. But I gave that up, because Armageddon was coming in 75. And then when it didn't,
Mm-hmm.
there was no apologies. Nobody said, well,
Mm-hmm.
nobody said nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that really got to me.
Well, then the organization said some brothers ran ahead. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
They said some brothers ran ahead. We didn't run ahead. That's what everybody was preaching in the conventions and the magazines.
The
and
Truth Book.
The,
That little blue-
the Thursday night theocratic ministry school. Remember that, Rich?
All the time.
It was just pounded into us that, the end of the system was coming around October of 75.
Yeah.
And then when it didn't happen, like Rich said, there was no apology whatsoever.
Yeah. People had quit their jobs, pulled the kids out of school,
Sold
their homes,
went to where the need was greater.
Yeah. And back in the beginning of the century, they didn't even bother sowing seeds for their crop because Armageddon was coming. So those people that didn't sow the crop when Armageddon didn't come, they starved. They lost their homes.
Well, and then there were witnesses too that they didn't even worry about paying their bills, their credit cards, or anything of that nature,
Yeah.
because they thought, why should we have to pay it? I mean, why be in debt? Armageddon's coming. So it devastated people in so many facets of life.
Yeah.
And then after it was all said and done, and 75 came and went, and a lot of people did leave the organization after 75, that's for sure. Like 250,000, but Watchtower, you can't play with people's lives. That's for sure.
No,
And Watchtower did.
And they certainly did.
Mhm.
I can remember two young brothers in their early 20s in 1970 went out and bought really nice. One was a Buick and the other was a Chevy, decked out. One was a Wildcat, Buick Wildcat, and the other was a Chevy Impala. Decked them all out because they weren't going to have to pay for them.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Boy, did
Yeah. Yeah. There goes their FICO score if they can't pay it.
There
right?
you go. Yeah, things are happening, and we see it all the time. We talk about on 6 screens. Beards are in now, and at one time,
That was. Remember,
Yeah.
Rich, you were saying that you'd come home from work and you had, a meeting, a Thursday night meeting.
Yeah.
And you always had to shave. All the brothers, many
Yeah.
of them had to. They had to shave so there was no kind of shadow on their face.
That's right. You had that 5 o'clock shadow. Forget it.
Had to be.
Yeah.
Now it's like, well, you can have a beard. That's fine. And there was this one brother, remember, Bob Gray, who was a very close friend of yours,
Yeah.
Rick.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's up in Maine, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And up there it gets very, very cold in the wintertime. It's close to Canada. And so he wanted to wear a beard, and he was an elder. And boy, they gave him the most difficult time, but they did make an exception for some reason in his case. But now it's no big deal.
That's right.
Yeah, this is what Rich is talking about, the flip-flopping of, these are not Bible principles. These are man-made rules and policies. That's what they are by the governing body members. And now you even see governing body members that wear beards.
If you don't know what the Watchtower is doing, if you haven't been a student of YouTube, let me tell you, they're selling off all the Kingdom Halls. They're only going to leave maybe just a few left so you can have weddings in them or something like that, or memorials. But they want to go to digital. They want to be broadcasting from Wallkill, and they want it's going to be a digital thing.
Yeah, like 700 Club.
Yeah, like 7.
Or Daystar. You
and
just watch it on
yeah.
TV and make the donations.
And it works for them. It really will, because they need to sell the Kingdom Halls to pay off all the CSA stuff that's going on.
Child sexual abuse.
Thousands and thousands of children molested by elders, servants, rank and file. We're hearing about it every single day.
Mhm.
The Watchtower Bowman Tract Society has $7 billion tucked away in Ireland.
If not more, Rich.
If not more, right.
If not more.
That's a conservative estimate.
Mhm.
That's a conservative estimate.
That's a lot of money. Well, they did, when they sold Bethel, or excuse me, the Brooklyn facilities there in New York, they received $2 billion just for that alone.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. It's a lot. It was prime real estate in New York City.
And they don't tell anybody. You've got to be able to do forensic investigations, to find that stuff out. Someone like a John Ledger, that guy's true. He's terrific. He goes into deep rabbit holes, and he comes out with a granite of gold or a nugget of gold. He always comes out with some really, really good stuff. I would really say.
We'll say who he is because there's new people, Rich. John Ledger, his name's really Jonathan Ledger, but anyway, John Ledger, Leger. I think it's French. I think it's Leger or something like that. Anyway, he was born and raised in the organization for 40 years, and he just woke up like about 8 years ago. He has a YouTube channel called XEXJW Analyzer, and that's really a great title for his YouTube channel because he analyzes everything and breaks it down and uses Watchtower literature and so forth. And he is really excellent. He's almost doing like at least one, maybe sometimes 2 videos a day. I mean, he's just on a real roll.
He's prolific.
Yeah, he's excellent. He does a lot of deep research and he's very, very good. So if you have never seen him, you go on YouTube, look up EXJW Analyzer. You'll learn a lot. You really will.
And brothers and sisters, when I was at JW, I was always told, you have to go out and field service. You have to go out and field service.
Oh, yeah.
Or you're going to be blood guilty.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Well, I would say this. If you really want to be a good person and feel good about yourself, tell people about 6 Screens. Tell people about Winston. Tell people about Jonathan Ledger and his wife. If you're afraid to tell them verbally, write them a note.
Or an email.
Or an email, make it anonymous.
Yeah.
Just say, listen to these. You really got to promote this stuff because people are getting hurt. People are losing their lives. People.
There's a lot of suicide among JWs.
Yeah, there is.
There's so much confusion, so much anxiety and depression.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing too is you never do enough. So what Rich is saying is very, very true. People need to know that there are options out there. There is help. And 6 Screens is definitely one avenue that people can pursue.
It's cathartic. When you're listening to 6 Screens and you hear people telling their stories and you can chime in yourself and say what you want to say, it really makes you feel a lot better. And as Rick mentioned, you don't have to pay $400 an hour.
That's right.
We're free. We're free.
And the shrink, a psychiatrist is a shrink. They've gone through medical school and focus, their concentration has been on the brain and mental health, which I totally respect. But the thing is, their job is very different from a psychologist or a therapist in the sense that they will give you medication because they legally can't. They'll write a script. So, so many JWs suffer from depression. They suffer from anxiety, Armageddon, the installation of Armageddon, you're not good enough, shooting down your self-esteem, all of that. We know what that's all about. And so when a witness, ex-JW, whatever the case might be, goes in to see a psychiatrist, he's going to, of course, listen to you. He's going to charge you a lot. If you can afford it or your insurance, that's great. But he will definitely be prescribing Paxil or Xanax or whatever
Ritalin
is needed. Whatever. Ritalin's more for ADHD, but but it's definitely to help you with the issues that you have with depression and anxiety. So, but what we're trying to say is that, if you can, be aware of this show and other shows that are YouTube channels. What's great about this, it's live. We're live right now, and you can chime in and talk to us, and we just absolutely love that. And it's all free, it's absolutely free. You don't have to pay anything. And it is very, very healing. And that's what we're trying to help people tonight. And every time we do our show is to educate people and to be able to help people to heal. Because there's nothing like speaking to somebody in a group. I don't care if it's AA, NA, I don't care what the group is. When you have people who are very like-minded, who have gone through your experiences in life, boy, you might not personally know who they are, but boy, you can totally connect from, the first couple of minutes. And you have so much to share and to help each other that people maybe necessarily on the outside who were never JWs, they can't really relate. So anyway, that's why we're here. We love you very much, and we're here to help you.
Absolutely, we are. A little something on PTSD, because I would imagine that the majority of people listening to our program right now has had PTSD or still has it and doesn't realize it.
Right.
But when you're taught from a very, very young age that Armageddon is going to be so bad, if our Heavenly Father doesn't cut it short, no flesh would survive. Then you look at the Paradise Earth book and a whole bunch of books that they had after that, and they get, fire and brimstone coming down from heaven and buildings being destroyed, or you've got these guys break into a kingdom hall or a book study, and they've got
down in the bunker.
and they've got rifles, and they all look mean, and you see the children all scared. And when I grew up as a kid, right, I had teddy bears and I butterflies and nice little kid stories, Three Little Pigs. What does the Jehovah's Witness kid get? Armageddon. The earth opening up and people falling into it and gone forever. That's what Jehovah's Witness kids get. They don't get, fairy godmothers and tooth fairies and Santa Clauses and
none of that.
They don't get any of that really nice stuff.
That warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah, the kids get.
And they do have a lot of trauma from that. The children's book.
Yeah.
I mean, even our friend Joe was talking about that growing up as a JW. Just the book itself, I don't know exactly which book it was, but talking about the pictures, Rich.
Paradise Earth book.
Paradise Earth, that's it.
Yeah.
And the trauma and the nightmare and the fear and the anxiety just as a child. So you think about starting that as a child, and then you're progressing through life, and it's just always there every single day. And to you, that seems like normal, right? Because that's how you grew up. And you think, well, as a child, we're talking. You're thinking, well, that's how everybody grows up. No, it's not how everybody grows up. Not even close.
I heard a story. Kid comes home and says, Mom, I don't understand multiplication and I don't understand division. And everybody, all the kids in my class are ahead of me. Can you help me with it? Well, did you do your book study? Are you ready for your Watchtower? That's got to come first. So, the kids flunks out of school or something.
Well, education, unfortunately, is not very important in the JW world.
No, it isn't.
Because when you have in our day, you had 5 meetings a week. You had a Tuesday night book study. You had a Thursday night ministry school and service meeting. Those are 2 nights of school.
Yeah.
And generally, kids, they need to get to bed young or early in order to get their sleep and get their rest. Even if they're teenagers, it doesn't matter. They're in the growing phases. And yet with Watchtower, I mean, I never went through that, but the thing is, getting to that meeting is really important. And, your homework is not that critical. Well, it is that critical, because when you go to school the next day or there's an exam, boy, you're behind. You're really behind. It's really sad.
If your dad is an elder and after the meeting, there's another meeting for somebody got a problem or whatever, right? The family stays sitting in those chairs till 9, 10 o'clock at night sometimes. And the kid's going to bed at 11. He's getting up at 7.
That's not right.
Well,
That's not right.
that's not enough sleep for a
That's not
youngster,
right.
and he falls asleep in class.
That's not right.
It's not right.
Did you want to just, Rich, touch
Mm.
just a little bit? You're talking about PTSD, and I loved your comment when you said a lot of people, which is really true, do not even know that they have PTSD. In fact, you might even explain what PTSD is. It's post-traumatic stress syndrome, but you might explain the symptoms, Rich, and how long it took you to overcome.
Yeah.
Okay, because a lot of JWs, they're not aware of any of this, Rich,
Yeah. Okay.
or ex-JWs too.
PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's something that has made a really deep impression on your mind. You force it down into your psychology, into your psyche, and it keeps coming up, and it affects everything. It affects the way you approach life, is what it is. So, in my situation, I got a disability from the government for PTSD, and in order to keep the disability, I had to go to these groups.
Okay, tell me where your PTSD, because there's new listeners, Rich.
Yeah.
Where'd your PTSD come from?
Well, it came from combat in Vietnam.
Right.
Okay.
He was in the jungles in Vietnam as a Marine.
So that there's a lot of killing and a lot of bodies blown apart, and just always, every single day, there was an opportunity for you to get killed, whether it was different snakes that they had out there, or a sniper, or going on patrol. It was always a way that you could get kills. So even if you were in the rear, you were always worried about getting killed.
Every day.
Every day.
Every single day. You didn't know when you woke up if that was going to be your last day or not, right?
So you don't realize you have it. You go back to the States, and you drink your beers and you smoke your joints, and you get involved in immorality and stuff like that. You do a lot of that stuff. But when I had to go to the groups for 10 years, if you don't go to the groups, they take your disability away, which was thousands of dollars every month. So I went to the groups. So I learned a lot about PTSD, and I suffer more from my divorce and my time in the Watchtower with the PTSD that I had than I did when I was in combat in Vietnam.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I can assure almost everyone out there listening to my voice that if you spent any length of time in the JWs, you have PTSD. No, all of us vets, I don't have it. I can handle that. That's not a problem. I'm a big, tough macho guy. I can handle it. You can't, because that's abnormal behavior. That's an event that's not in the norm, and it stays in your mind.
Well, I would just like to say too, so just going back to being a Marine and coming out of that, Vietnam, for those of you who might not be aware of it, it was a horrific war, and it was very, very controversial. And the average age, and you were drafted.
I enlisted.
Oh, you enlisted. I'm sorry. I was thinking my brothers. I have 4 older brothers. I'm down to 3 now. But let me tell you, they were scared out of their boots, and it was like 60s. And man, my brother Warren had 2 more numbers, and then he was going to be drafted. But he had buddies that were killed. The average age was 19. They were just young kids, and Rich was one of the fortunate ones to come home. Yep. But what I wanted to say is that a lot of them, when they came back, if they did, we're talking about those, there's a high rate of suicide. It doesn't matter if it's Vietnam or whatever. When you're in combat and you're a soldier, and that's your job, is to defend this country and to be a soldier. Anyway, and a lot of them commit suicide. What's the rate, Rich? Something like 1 a day, something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know what the stat is. It's very high among veterans.
Yeah, 2 a day.
Yeah, it's very, very high.
We still have a patch on our jackets. 2 a day is too much.
Yeah. 2 would commit
suicide.
2 a day would commit suicide. So with the JWs, in terms of the JWs, there's a very high rate of suicide among JWs. So the PTSD is something that's very, very real, and people need to be aware of it. And after 10 years, Rich, it really made a big difference to help you, didn't it?
Well, yeah, it did. I went to the groups, And I took the meds for maybe 2 years, then I threw them away, but I didn't tell that to the government because they would have taken my disability away. But I went to the groups for 10 years. So I learned a lot about PTSD. And what you have to understand is if you have it, you start off with hypervigilance.
Maybe you can explain what that is. Right?
Well, it's that you're always looking around. You don't know why you're doing it. You're always looking to be hurt by somebody or something.
Yeah, your life.
Hypervigilance. And that dwarfs into anxiety. And that dwarfs into depression. And that shows itself in alcoholism, drugs, flying off the handle, smacking the wife around or the girlfriend around, or always being ready to fight. And you're not a happy person. You could give someone that has PTSD, you can give them $5 million. They go out and buy anything you want. They're not going to be happy. They're not going to have any joy. When I started not going to the meetings anymore, the PTSD meetings, we started to pray. And that's a game changer. I just want anyone out here to believe me, I've been through it. Once I started praying I lost my family, I lost my house, I lost my sister, my wife, my children.
Watchtower.
Yeah, I lost so much, and I hated myself. And then when you realize that you're a child of God, and that God loves you, and it's all you need to do it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to say a quick prayer and boom. At least for me, it didn't go this way.
Right. It's a journey, honey.
It is a journey.
It's a journey of
It's
healing.
an everyday thing. You ask for Holy Spirit, you ask for the hedge of protection to be around you, and you ask for direction in your life. And if you ask enough, it will come. My opinion, it will come. So actually, I really wasn't going to go into a whole lot of PTSD tonight. I want to talk about the main theme of our notes is the blood issue, what's going on right now, where for years you could not take a blood transfusion, period. There was no exceptions, blood transfusion. Now, because they're getting sued, and that's the only reason why they're changing it, they're getting sued, so they're trying to placate the different governments. So they're going to say, well, you know
sort
what?
of backpedal, huh, Rich?
Yeah.
A little bit, you'd say?
Like, there's a story of a mother who had 4 children and was having a fifth, or she had 3 and was having her 4th, one of those 2. And it was going to be a complicated pregnancy. They knew it.
High risk.
Yeah. So, she could conceivably have given 2 units of blood before the 45 days had elapsed.
Her own blood.
Her own blood.
Right.
And it would have saved her. But because it says right on the blood card, no transfusions, period. It didn't say you could use your own blood in a blood transfusion. But then here comes, what's his name?
Garrett Loesch.
Garrett Loesch. He comes on with his mustard-colored suit. And the Bible doesn't say, what?
Yeah.
The Bible doesn't say that you can't use your own blood. Well, before, absolutely. If you took a blood transfusion, you would be disfellowshipped. No 2 ways about it.
Well, tell that to all the family members that lost their loved ones.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you personally go before, on jw.org and you make this statement as if it's like trivial. It's like, well, this is our new understanding. We have clarification, right? Clarification. Really, what about the family that lost their father, who was the breadwinner for the whole family? And now, I mean, he's been dead because he was trying to be loyal to Jehovah and the organization, thought he was doing the right thing. And then the wife, was a stay-at-home mom that had a couple of children. And, now she's got to hustle and be able to do whatever she can to try to support the family. If not, she's going to go on welfare. That's for sure. Because, You got to pay the bills no matter what, and you've got to eat every single day. So if you don't have the breadwinner there doing it, right, what do? So, Garrett Loesch, say something to that family, or that little girl who lost her daddy because of it, and she grew up without a father all those years.
Yeah,
They're very callous about it.
there's that Wingle guy, like Winger,
Yeah.
right?
Winder.
No need for us to apologize.
Yeah. Well, we're not inspired either, Rich, I mean, people really need to wake up to what this organization is truly all about.
Mhm. Now, with the blood thing, right? We all remember Jim Jones, right?
Oh, yeah.
It would,
I do.
Deanna. 918 people died because they thought that Jim Jones was inspired. He was inspired by Satan, the devil. That's who he was inspired by.
Mhm.
He cost the life of 918 people.
Mhm.
The Watchtower is much worse.
Yeah, that's an excellent
Much,
point, Rich.
much worse.
That's
Talk about blood
excellent.
guilty. They won't let you go into the military because there's a chance that you could be blood guilty. Okay? But just by the fact that even if you never shot a rifle and you were just a cook, you cooked the food for the guys that shot the rifles. Even still, there was a community involvement that you had with the guy who shot the rifle, and you couldn't join the military because you could be blood guilty.
But then what's interesting about that, Rich, is the hypocrisy that the
Mhm.
governing body members have. For people who are new, you can go online and you can see that Watchtower has investments in
Raytheon and all these big
Raytheon, all these ones that are involved with war. They're involved with tobacco companies. There's a whole slew of things that Watchtower is totally invested in, and yet they don't want the average rank and file to know this. And yet many of us do know this because of research that has been done. You
Mhm.
can't deny that from the internet. And yet, so Watchtower has this attitude, do as we say, but don't do as we do. And they think
Absolutely.
people are stupid.
They try to hide everything.
Yeah, they do.
And then if it gets out, they'll just say that's apostate-driven lies.
Right.
That's what they'll say. Don't believe them. They hate Jehovah, and they're not going to be in the new system, so they don't want you to be in the new system. That's a big BS story, folks.
Mhm.
It really, really is a big BS story.
Mhm.
Talking about blood guiltiness,
Mm.
there has been, I think it was 74,000 people, 78,000 people, it's estimated, died by not taking blood.
Wow, that's a
78,000.
lot of people.
That is 10 times more than a Guyana. But the reason you don't hear about it too much is because one person dies in Maine, another person dies in Florida, another person that dies in Massachusetts, different times, different months, one here, one there, one here, so you don't hear
Different
about
years.
it.
Yeah.
But if 78,000 people died at one time,
Mm.
boy, you'd hear about it. And it's a very corrupt organization.
Well, and then, when you read the information about, in the scriptures, in Leviticus and so forth, it's talking about dietary, not taking the blood from the animal and making sure that, the blood was done properly for the safety of the people. That's what it was. They didn't have blood transfusions back in the first century. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And yet Watchtower likes to twist it. They like to put a spin on it. And yet people think, well, if they're inspired by Jehovah God, then this is what we need to do. Now, let's just add this to the element too, Rich. People say, okay, well, fine. If it's just, for dietary reasons, I can accept that now, right? Now that Watchtower's changed the rules. People are sort of confused, and rightfully so. What about the issue of tainted blood? Okay. What about, I'm originally from San Francisco Bay Area. So in the 80s, the AIDS epidemic was explosive. Okay. I lived 15 minutes from San Francisco, but anyway, it was explosive. And I also worked for the city and county of San Francisco, and I worked in the AIDS office. Okay. So we had a big, what would you call it? I can't think of what you call it. Quilt. It was a quilt. and it had, information on everybody that had died, had their name, sometimes their picture, the day they were born, the day they died, and it was a beautiful quilt, but it was, oh my gosh, it was so, so tall. So the point I'm trying to make is with the issue in terms of the blood being tainted, people are afraid if it had HIV, especially HIV back in the 80s, or hepatitis or anything else, right? Yeah, that was a concern. But I have to tell you this, and I want you to know this. Blood has definitely, because of the AIDS epidemic and also hepatitis, but especially AIDS, the medical community has done rigorous testings, whatever they need to do to try to screen that blood to be as clean as possible. Okay, I just want to tell you that. So that's a very personal decision for people, even if you accepted to want to be able to have a blood transfusion. That's certainly a choice that everybody should be able to make on their own. But there wouldn't be any worry, right? If you donated your own blood, right? If you donated your own blood, you knew there was going to be a surgery in advance, and you could donate your blood and keep it for 42 or 48 days.
42.
Yeah.
It would vary,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
The thing is that, it's your own blood. So you don't have to worry about having that blood contaminated by anybody else. We didn't get to say that 2 weeks ago, and I was thinking about that, and I thought that was something that was really, really important. People need to be aware of. Okay.
Try being an elder on a liaison committee where they kind of coerce the person who needs the blood to not taking it. It's coercion.
That liaison committee.
What did I say?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying that's what it was.
Yeah.
No.
Liaison.
I don't think they had it when I was in, Rich.
Oh, they had it when I was in. Sure.
Did they? Okay. Yeah,
The
they really
liaison
cracked
committee.
down on that.
And try being an elder and knowing that you're coercing someone to not taking the blood that could save their life. Then the person dies. Then then a watchtower comes along and says, well,
Well, that's
you
it.
could have saved your own blood. As a matter of fact, I want to do this clarification. It's not a clarification. It's not. It's a complete reversal, because if you look on the blood card, it says no transfusions, not even your own blood
Right.
can be transfused back into you for surgery. So they're going
It's
to,
clear as day.
yeah.
But the thing is, Watchtower is controlled by who knows how many attorneys, right? It's a corporation. So it is run by all these attorneys. So they use that terminology to protect their fannies. So it's called clarification. That's what it is, Rich. They will not admit it's a complete change, but it's like I said the other week, it's like a whole group of attorneys were sitting right in front of Garrett Loesch, which I'm sure they weren't, but he was fully aware of what the attorneys had told him to say on jw.org.
Yeah, lawyers do run it.
Oh, yeah.
They really do. And these newest guys that are coming on the governing body, they're not spiritual people. They're money managers. They're hedge funds managers. These are guys that buy and sell stock, and they're big time finance people.
Oh, yeah, big time. It's a money-making
It's
machine.
a money making
That's
organization.
what Watchtower is. It's a money-making machine. It truly, truly is. They have some of the top investors back there with their $7 billion that's all the way in Ireland. And what's interesting is you think, well, why Ireland? Well, Google and Zuckerberg, these are people that are billionaires, right? They're billionaires from the high-tech industry, and they have their investments over there in Ireland. I'm from Ireland. My family is Irish. I've been to Ireland, and it's just a small country, part of the UK, but that's what it is. That's where the billionaires have their money invested, and that's why Watchtower has their money invested there as well.
Talk about one of the biggest contradictions of all times. They come out and say that you must obey us as if your life depends upon it, because it does. And then they turn around and say, we are not inspired, and so we could err from time to time. Well, which is it? You know, are you inspired or are you not inspired? I can remember I got in trouble when I was a ministerial servant, and they wanted us to vote whether or not we should disfellowship people that were obese. They were being 50 pounds overweight. And
That was a trial balloon.
it was a trial balloon that they didn't talk to every servant body about it, but they talked to ours. And he wanted us to raise our hand if we thought it was appropriate to disfellowship people that were obese. Going to give them 6 months or a year or something like that to get the weight down, because they were concerned about how things looked.
The appearance,
Yeah,
Rich?
right.
Sort of like the smoking. Remember the smoking?
Exactly. Like smoking was injurious to your health,
right.
and so was being obese. So they want to take away your everlasting life because you put on a few pounds too many, and they want us to vote on it. And I remember the 3 elders that were on my judicial committee, and they all had slender wives. They all raised their hand. Yep, disfellowship them. And, you know, and I stood up. And this is not me. I was like, I'm only a ministerial servant. I sit in the back. I just take in knowledge till I get smart on JW stuff, right? I stood up and said, why are we voting? Why are we voting?
Especially if we're inspired, right?
Yeah, well, just let me finish that through. Why are we voting? Whatever happened to our Heavenly Father, you can call him Jehovah if you want, Jehovah telling the anointed that he wants obese people disfellowshipped, and then the anointed tell the governing body, and the governing body pass it down to all the elders. That's how I understood it to work. That was the rank structure. So why are we voting? And everybody looked at me like...
And the circuit overseer was there.
Yeah, well, it really painted me in a bad light, because I questioned a lot of things. And
which was a blessing.
Yeah, well, it got me in trouble when I confessed to immorality. Oh, we got him. Look.
Yeah, payback time.
Yeah, payback. There was a lot of things that I had questioned, but I wasn't really smart enough and knew the scriptures that well that I could say, the scriptures say this and you're doing that. It wasn't until Rick Farron came along where I started putting all the dots together.
But you did have critical thinking skills, Rich. You know, that's what's really key. You know, in the organization, you can't question anyone. And you were questioning the circuit overseer and the body of elders there, because your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, and your wife were obese.
That's right.
And so if they voted on it, they would have instantly, all 3 of them, been disfellowshipped. Yeah.
So, you know, why are we voting on it?
Right.
And everybody just looked at me like, what is wrong with you? Shut up, you know?
Like, how dare you question?
That's the circuit overseer you're talking to, you know?
Whoop-de-doo.
So here's my point. I've told this story a dozen times over the years on 6 screens. Here's my point. Why does the governing body vote on anything? When Noah or even Moses, he's in the desert, he didn't have... He had judges that worked for him, so to speak, to handle a caseload, but he didn't have a governing body.
Right.
Our Heavenly Father talked to Moses directly, and he talked to Noah directly, you know? And then Noah, why don't we just have one person, chairman of the board or whatever you want to call him, and Jehovah talked to him directly?
Yeah.
You got to ask those kind of questions,
right?
Because if they're voting on things, you know, it's like, well, how many people think we should do it this way, and half vote, and how many people think we should do it this way, and another half votes, and it's the same thing with the running staff that writes the Watchtower. They do tons of different drafts, and then they vote on what paragraph would fit where and how it should be worded and what scripture they should use. This is men shooting in the dark, but they have us believing that they're inspired, and they're not.
You know, Rich, I remember thinking to myself, voting. Why did they even vote in the congregation? I mean, you know, we were taught to be completely neutral towards everything political. everything. You can't go and vote. You can't belong to any political party. You can't do any of that. You can't go to war. You can't salute the flag. You can't say the Pledge of Allegiance. You have to be completely neutral, right? Because of Matthew 6:33, seek God's kingdom first and his righteousness. Okay. So when I heard that, I thought, well, isn't that sort of ironic? Why would the elders be voting? I mean, we can't even vote any other way, but it's okay for them to vote.
Oh, yeah.
See, that's where you start to question things. And then the other thing I'd like to just say is that, Raymond Franz, for those of you, he had been, governing body member for many, many years. His uncle was the president, Freddie Franz, and he was the nephew. And anyway, he says in his book, Crisis of Conscience, about, what went on behind closed doors that the average JW had no clue of knowing. And when it came to voting, Rich, when you're talking about voting on different issues, different policies, whatever, you'd think, oh, well, if this is Jehovah's inspired organization, right? We're talking about 70s and 80s. Okay. That's what we're talking about, which we were taught then, that, you have so much peace and harmony because, it's controlled by Jehovah. Well, what Ray France was saying is you'd be surprised how many of them had arguments that they did not agree with each other. There were personality differences, right? And, like the big boardroom, and they're all trying to make decisions. Some always agreed and some didn't. And there was always a clash. So that's very interesting.
Right.
Rich,
Jehovah's Spirit was upon that governing body.
Right.
Or those elders in a judicial meeting, they would come to a conclusion in a second.
Right.
There wouldn't be any, dissenting votes or anything else. Yep. The governing body is men that are inspired by Satan and devil. And I say that because if you look at the history of Jehovah's Witnesses,
look at the fruit,
the lies that they tell, and who's the father of the lie? Satan and devil.
You got to look at the fruit.
Right, they have caused families to break up. They have caused, because of the blood issue, 74,000 at least people have died as a JW. They have caused suicides. They have certainly caused mental issues. I would venture to say that anyone that believes that Armageddon is going to come and it's going to be so terrible that no flesh would survive, and that's hanging over your head, even in your subconscious.
Yes, people are afraid to leave for that reason.
Yeah, it's if I leave,
oh my gosh, I'm going to die at Armageddon.
that's it. I'm
Jehovah's
not faithful.
gonna kill
I'm
me.
not faithful to Jehovah's. When they say Jehovah, they mean the governing body.
Yeah, they do.
They're synonymous, the two of them.
They do, because they've gotten into idol worship.
They have.
They little by little by little. I could see that, Rich, from the late 70s to the early 80s. I could see how they were changing their direction. That, now you have to, little by little. It was very gradual, but I could see it. And you have to worship the governing body members, and they are. That's who they are. They're narcissists. They want complete allegiance, obedience, loyal faithfulness, and they say it's to Jehovah, but it's not to Jehovah. It's to them. That's who it is. Because if it wasn't, you could just pick up and leave. You could move on with your life and say, you know what? I'm not agreeing with everything here. I'm not feeling very comfortable with a lot of things in my own spirit. There's a lot of issues that I have problems with. And, I just really want to walk away, or I want to separate myself and think about this. No, you're just totally harassed, And then when the three elders get a hold of you, first thing they're going to ask you is that question: do you believe the governing body, and this is Jehovah's organization, something to that effect?
Yep.
Are you, do you believe that this is God's true organization controlled by the governing body? That's the bottom line. That's the question they're going to ask you. Has nothing to do with God, has nothing to do with your relationship with him, right? It's about complete loyalty to the governing body members.
I got a kick out of that little Winger guy.
Yeah, Winder.
Winder, right? Yeah. He comes on and he says, Jehovah trusts us with the decisions we make about dress. I mean, why does our Heavenly Father have to trust anybody or anything. He's God.
Right.
Oh no, oh my goodness. And you know what? They keep on throwing this stuff at us, and now it's going to be their downfall.
Well, people are waking up, Rich.
Yeah, there's
Boy,
just too
people
much
are
stuff
waking
out
up.
there,
People are
and too
really
much
waking up.
pedophilia, and
Oh, man.
elders going to prison, covering up pedophilia.
We have
all
a
over the
story
place.
on that, huh? Can we
Yeah.
interject
Go ahead,
that?
let's do that.
Okay, well, we were just, watching a YouTube. We watch it a lot, but last night there was one, and it was Fixing My Faith with Vern. He's the ex-JW up in Canada. And the name of the title of the YouTube is to this effect. I'm putting it in my words, but elders beware, because the governing body members are going to throw you under the bus.
Mhm.
And it has a picture of a bus, like a school bus, and there's like an elder literally under the bus. And so it caught my attention, the picture and the title. So we were watching it last night, and there were two brothers that were in Illinois. One was he said in his 70s, and the other one was 88. They're both elders. Loyal JWs for decades. Okay. They did everything the society said, faithful to Jehovah. So anyway, it said Lake Crystal or Crystal Lake, Illinois. Okay. So anyway, this is a true story. So what ended up happening is, because of all the child sexual abuse going on, these two elders were brought before the authorities with regards, or like in a court of law, right? Court of law. And they're brought before the authorities, and they were asked, why did you not report the child sexual abuse that was in your congregation? Meaning the pedophiles. And the response was, and it mentions their two names, okay? But one was in the 70s, one was 88, okay? And their response was, well, because we were following everything that the governing body members instructed us to do, which is a true statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that did not hold up in the court of law. These men, instead of going to prison, probably because of their age, I think the judge was probably a little bit lenient. They had to pay fines, and what else, Rich?
Community service.
Community service.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being 88 and in your 70s, community service? But this is the other point, okay?
Watchtower didn't send any lawyers to help them.
Oh, no. Watchtower did not send any of their attorneys whatsoever. And now they have a felony on their record, an absolute felony on their record for covering up and protecting the pedophiles instead of the children who were in the congregation. So the point about the video, it's really excellent. It's, 30 minutes. It's not that long. 40 minutes is with Fixing My Faith on a YouTube channel. Anyway, and it's like, elders, you better wake up, because you think you're doing the right thing because you think you're pleasing Jehovah, when in fact, the governing body members are literally throwing you under the bus, washing their hands clean. Is like, Nope. That's not our responsibility. We are not accountable. It's the elders. See, that's what they're doing. They're washing their hands clean, and the governing body members are putting all the accountability on the elders. Okay. And Rick has said this on the show, which is true. We know there's elders that are listening. You can lose your ass being an elder today. Huh? I have to say it like it is. I mean, you can lose your house. You can lose everything.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to this, you're talking about protecting criminal behavior. That's what you're doing. And they're thinking we're doing it because this is what the governing body members say. Well, do you really honestly believe that you think Jehovah is backing this up? That children are not precious? That they shouldn't be protected from somebody who's a pedophile? That all they want to do is rape these kids over and over? You think that this is what being a Christian is? So their thinking is very, very warped. And it's very, very serious. In fact, somebody else was saying, we're watching another video, was a brother named Joe Rao, R-A-O, had been an elder, born and raised. I love these ones, Rich, where they're real. You know, you see the person, they're right there, born and raised. Anyway, he left the organization. His parents were JWs. Anyway, he had, get this, 7 pedophiles in his congregation. 7. And that was just one congregation.
And that's not unusual. I had 5 that I could name. And then Rick hired a former Jehovah's Witness that he was sexually abused.
Yeah.
And he was my youngest son's best friend for years, probably still are.
Yeah.
You know, and he's all messed up.
Oh, yeah.
With drugs and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It messes people up big time.
And even in relationships too.
Yeah.
Rich. And what's interesting about this young man, I'd say, I don't know, what do you think? Like in his 40s, Rich? Do you think the one we saw, Joe Rao, R-A-O?
Yeah.
I'd say he was in his 40s. What's interesting about him is that, like I said, his parents were JWs. He was born and raised in, I think, from the age of 3. His wife's parents were the same thing. Her father was an elder, you know, the whole thing. Anyway, what's interesting about it is that he was sexually abused. He was sexually abused as a child when he was about, didn't he say 8 to the age of 13? Twice. There were 2 different people in the congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. So now that he is awake and he is out, and he did judicial committee meetings, and he was involved in child sexual abuse cases in the eldership, the judicial committee meetings in his congregation. Oh, let me tell you, he says, I will never stop talking about this. I will never, ever stop talking about it. Of course, my family has nothing to do with me. My wife's family, the same way. And he said, we will continue to expose how serious this is. And we had 7 pedophiles in our congregation alone. And he said, since I had been sexually abused, he said, I suppressed it. I suppressed it, which is very common. In other words, your brain just shuts down and it just goes into a mode where you block it off, like you don't even remember it. And it wasn't until he got older he remembered that, Rich. And so,
repressed memory.
And he's very loving, very kind, but he's there to protect children, and that's what we are for. And then you get people in the organization, oh, those apostates are a bunch of liars. No, they're not. No, we're not. No, we're not. And so people need to be very, very aware of this. And that's part of our mission for being on this show, is to expose that, because we love children, we love families, and nobody deserves to be treated like that. Nobody.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we've been yakking at you for a little over an hour.
Yeah.
And this is your program. So hit *6 if you want to comment on anything that we've been talking about tonight. My basic theme was the blood transfusions that are now available if you store your own blood. But the point is, it's reversal.
Yeah.
It is not a clarification. It's reversal. Basically, they're saying we're wrong, but we're not going to apologize. We're going to cover it up by saying it's a clarification. So *6 if you want to comment on what we've been yakking about.
Anything, blood or anything.
Yeah, blood or anything.
Anything. We'd love to hear from you.
We got the United Kingdom calling in. Go ahead, United Kingdom.
Good. Hello.
Hello, Rick.
Hi, welcome.
I hope you're okay. It's Roland from the UK.
Oh, hi, Roland. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Well, I'm sort of doing okay. I'm not really, because this is sort of why I'm calling in, because I've been listening with interest to your program. It's been excellent, by the way.
Thank you, dear.
But with you talking about the blood and the post-traumatic stress, I just thought I'd sort of pick up, because just recently I struggle with bipolar and post-traumatic stress myself, and mild, sometimes, well, not mild psychosis occasionally. And I've been all right for 5 years. I'm born again Christian. I was in the JWs for 19 years, as people will know if they watch Rick Fearon over the years.
Yeah.
as you know, my wife needed a blood transfusion while I was a JW, only 3 years into being a JW, actually.
Right.
And both my wife and my son both died, but I allowed her to have the blood transfusion while I was a JW. The elders found out after she died, after both of them had died, that had allowed her to have a transfusion, and their words to me were, well, you probably won't get a resurrection, you realise that, but we won't disfellowship you, you know, because the elders think you've suffered enough. And, you know, but from there on, I mean, I've always been very sort of, I've had a very strong belief in God for many years, you know, even before I became a JW, I had some belief in God, but I seriously thought I'd lost my salvation. I thought I'd chosen my wife over God. And when they brought this blood thing out a week or 2 ago, it just took me back to the that night when it happened, the day it happened, it's sort of evening time. Everything was going fine. She was in the delivery room. There'd been no complications through the pregnancy. But she had a heart attack and on the table, or what, that's what it seemed. And they took me out. I was in a room for hours on my own, and I was wondering whether she was alive or dead. Didn't know whether either of them was alive or dead at that point, because the baby was still in her, my son. Neither were breathing for 20 or 30 minutes, and they managed to get them both resuscitated. They managed to do take the baby out, my son out via cesarean, but both had been severely damaged by lack of oxygen. Both was in comas. My son was probably worse in lots of respects because I could tell he wasn't going to get any better. And you know, and then the doctors came in that night when it all happened and said she needed a blood transfusion. And you know, you can imagine what was going on in my mind. I was panicking. They said JW's coming because I knew I was going to give her the blood. But then afterwards I felt so guilty because I thought I'd given up my salvation and I'd put my wife before God, which is so ridiculous. But at the time, that's what I truly believed. And when they brought this blood change out a week or 2 ago, although it probably wouldn't have helped her in that circumstance because we weren't expecting anything to go wrong, but but it just took me back. I don't know. Now since I've been dreaming, I've been back in back in that room, having to make that decision all over again. I've been back in the Kingdom Hall, and I wake up and I seriously think I'm back there, or I'm in the back room having a meeting with the elders because they're having to go about something. I mean, like you say, you can never do enough, and I can never do right for doing wrong. And it's really messed me up just recently. I've been great for 5 years, but that, and plus I found out a friend of mine who he'd been an elder himself. He got knocked down for something, I can't remember what it was now, but he's just committed suicide because his marriage broke up. And you know, we got on really well. I mean, you know, I was really fond of him. He was only young. He was only probably in his late 30s now. He was in his 20s, well, actually late teens when I first knew him. Smashing lad, lovely lad, and committed suicide. 2 other people in my old congregation committed suicide. One got disfellowship for smoking. Parents kicked him out. He was only about 18, and next I heard he'd hung himself because his family disfellowshipped him, and you know, and all this has been coming back to me since this thing with the blood, you know, and it was that triggered it more so than anything. And so I'm struggling, and you know, it's all thanks to them basically.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, that's a very touching story, Brother Roland. Thank you for bringing it out. We just see how heartless these people are. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Joe.
Yeah, along with that brother from the UK, I'd like to just focus on post-traumatic stress. I know he went through a lot with the blood issue, and you know, a lot of that comes back. People that you knew committed suicide over disfellowshippings. But the thing I wanted to say is, I don't know if I'm ever in this life going to ever get rid of it, because I had dreams last night, Armageddon nightmares last night, and not just Armageddon nightmares, the whole thing, the judicial committee stuff and all that. And you made a comment about being hyper vigilant, Rich.
Yep.
I'm a very hyper vigilant person. I've always been that way ever since I was dismissed from the Watchtower. Even in the Watchtower, I was always worried that nothing will ever go as planned. I was always like, everything's going to be a catastrophe.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to point out. And then lastly, I just wanted to point out the individual from the UK mentioned suicides. The only 3 friends I was able to have were in the Watchtower. One of them didn't want to be a witness, but all 3 of them committed suicide. So, you know, the policies of these evil men, the governing body, they destroy so many lives. And it's just so sad. Great show. I just wanted to share my opinion, and I want to thank you for being an advocate for us.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes.
And just so the audience knows, if you don't know, Joe was an elder for 14 years. Go ahead, sister.
He was in the organization for
Still on the line. Dear Roland, I just want to say to him again, I am so sorry for his loss. That double loss of mother and child just tears me up. And I encourage Roland to be present, Roland. Be here now, be present. And that's all any of us can do in our own lives, is be here and be present for ourselves. Be here now. And I understand about all of that, and even those Armageddon dreams, which I haven't had for about 5 or 6 years, but I had them even years after I left. So I hear you, gentlemen. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
May I
the other
add
thing.
something, please?
Go ahead. Asking for you.
Yes, go ahead, please. Mhm.
Yes, I've had post-traumatic stress for 65 years. My father had it most of his days, and even my grandfather and my children now.
Mhm.
I feel guilty. I was driven by guilt so much. I mean, during the Watchtower studies, you know, I would take an opposite view in public. And it made me an enemy, of course it did. So as I said in the past, when I spoke to you before, I'm one of the leading experts in cybercrime, taking down child pedophile networks, and I've been very successful at it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I want to give you an update. And I'm very sorry. I'm so sorry. I feel so guilty. So I dedicated my life to fighting this child abuse thing.
Mm.
And so what's happened is the corporate slaves. I don't call them faithful slaves. They're corporate slaves.
Mm-hmm.
They have adopted the Catholic playbook here. And I worked with the FBI team. We took down some Catholic stuff that was hardcore, even the Vatican Bank. So what the Vatican did was they transferred the liability from the Vatican to the diocese, to the local thing. And the Watchtower is actually using Catholic lawyers in the criminal and civil trials, particularly in Pennsylvania. So they, by adopting that, have moved all the liability to the local kingdom halls. And this is how the elders and even the people who are Jehovah's Witnesses have been thrown into the bus. When I was growing up, the only meetings we had was in the house of my grandfather. And then we finally rented a meat market. And this was 65 years ago. And finally, my grandfather gave the land and the money to build the first Kingdom Hall in Eden, North Carolina. It took about 2 years to do it. And I even worked on the assembly hall in Salisbury. And now, when the organization came in and made them send in the deeds to all that property, they transferred all the wealth to these 10 men and whoever's controlling them. And now what's happened is now all that property's gone, and now they're transferring the liability back to innocent people. And I'm not saying all the elders are innocent, but most of them are stupid, and that's my testimony. So they don't realize that now, like the video on the old men that had to do community service and all that stuff without help organizations, they're all out in the open legally now. 5 states are, like Idaho, now death penalty starting July the 1st, where people will be shot for pedophilia. So we got in Florida, Alabama, and even in Louisiana, they are voting for castration of pedophiles. I disagree with that because I think the castration should go from the neck up.
There you go. I agree.
And so now these men don't realize, because they've been brainwashed, that they're now liable for capital crime.
Right.
And also, there's a law moving through Congress to make it a national law to start executing pedophiles. But you can't do that without bringing to account men who have been covering it up. And I witnessed my first case in 1977 with dad, and that sent me on my quest. And I'm a very technical person. I'm a very scientific, technical person. So I design outcomes. I produce cybercrime outcomes and teachings for law enforcement nationwide. And my primary focus back in 1990 to 2000 was pedophilia. And I was appointed by the Attorney General of North Carolina to a national cybercrime task force, one of the first of its kind.
Wow.
And I sit on a committee with the FBI, the CIA, NSA, prosecutors, and people, and we openly talked about this. And at the time, it was like putting a Band-Aid on the fire hose.
Right.
But now I'm getting old, and I'm getting to the end of my life. And the final thing that I want to do before I pass away is to make sure that justice is being done for the victims,
Right.
That money is provided for them, counseling, and also the elders that are going to have to go to prison now.
Yeah. Right.
Because they were brainwashed and they were being told that they had to do this by about 10 men who both claimed that they're facing street slave class. I'm so sorry. I feel guilty, and I have post-traumatic stress syndrome constantly. Thank you.
Well, brother, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really, that's a very impressive conversation we had with you. I will just tell you this, on the PTSD side of it, prayer will eliminate a lot of your stress. And talking about it will eliminate a lot of stress. That's the beauty of 6 screens. And yeah, we know for a fact that a conservative number of 350,000 children have gone missing. A lot of them came over the border to be exploited, during the Biden administration.
The cartels.
Yeah, not to be political, but
Right.
there's money to be made.
Oh yeah, big money.
And there's a lot of very,
Unreal.
very important people mixed in with the pedophilia, with the Epstein files and so forth. That's why they're not being exposed the way they should. And I know I'm just preaching to the choir telling you this, but I think that very, very soon this thing is going to explode, and they're going to go finding these kids, the ones that are still alive. A lot of them have been murdered and they're buried all over the place.
Or they harvest their organs.
Yeah, they do.
They make money from that. It's very, very evil. There's no doubt about it. It's not easy to talk about, but people need to be very, very, very aware of it. And even in the Kingdom Hall, and we've also said it, you got your little boy or girl has to go to the restroom in the Kingdom Hall or the assembly, you take them with you, and no sleepovers.
That's
None.
right.
None. Because what happens is that these predators, pedophiles, they gain your trust as a parent. Oh, well, he's brother so-and-so. Isn't he so wonderful? He's a regular pioneer, or he's an elder, or he's a circuit overseer, or whatever the crazy title is. So then the parents' guard is down. Oh, well, we can trust him. No, you can't, because you know what? Some of them have come from prison, okay? And you know what? This is the other thing. I have a friend of mine. I was just talking to her this week. She and I worked together when I was living in California. And her own person, she was never a witness, okay? So her own father was a pedophile, okay? He raped her for many, many years. And I'm trying to get her to come on as a guest on the show and just explain. It was her biological father, okay? Not a stepfather. And I would like to do this interview with her so that she can give you an insight of what it's like, the grooming and so forth, and what it was like. Let me tell you, it really messed her up, but it will educate you. And the purpose is also not only to educate you, but also to help heal you. Because this happens in Watchtower, it happens outside of Watchtower. It is so prevalent, it's disgusting, right, Rich?
Yep.
It just is. So we thank you, brother, for your love of justice and love of these children and their families. Because I'm telling you, I lived with someone who was sexually abused by his pedophile father. And let me tell you, it messed him up big time. Okay. Now, therapy, of course, therapy can definitely help. But I'm just telling you, Watchtower doesn't even believe in therapy. Okay. So they're screwed, tattooed on both ends, right? You're being sexually abused with a pedophile in the congregation, but then you can't go for therapy. Are you kidding me? How freaking demonic is that?
Yeah, then if you go to the elders, they're going to say, well, who's the other witness? Well, there's no other witness. How can you not believe an 8-year-old who's been raped by an elder? How can you not believe? I mean, 8-year-olds don't
make it up.
And a lot of times what they do when it comes to therapy, my background's in counseling. The thing is, a lot of times what they do with children when they're young, children can't express themselves. So they'll do art therapy. They'll have them draw a picture and they'll talk to them and say, draw a picture to be able to have the child express themselves that way. And there'll be a picture that the child was sexually abused by so-and-so, and it's shown in the picture. And then they'll eventually ask them questions with regards to it. So that's how children express themselves, is through art. They don't have to be a great artist. They know what happened. Children don't have any reason to lie. They just know it hurt and it was wrong and it's a secret. Shh, I was told by daddy, or I was told by your boyfriend, or I was told by an elder, this is our secret. I don't supposed to tell you because then everybody in the family is going to be hurt or killed.
casting aspersions on Jehovah's name. So keep it quiet.
Yeah.
So other people will believe it's the truth and come in and eventually die and leave your house to the Watchtower.
Well, it's all about image. Watchtower is all about image. They don't really care about these children. And let me tell you, the consequences of being abused is very serious. It takes years of therapy. Yes, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Stefan. So first of all, I want to say good afternoon. I'm really enjoying the show. I want to go back because you guys know I'm in Illinois.
Yeah.
And in fact, I work not too far from Crystal Lake. I work in North Lake from time to time.
Oh,
that court case that you referenced not too long ago, that
Yeah.
really touched the nerve with me, and I actually followed it pretty closely. And there's a couple things that really jumped out at me, that if
Sure.
you are an elder or even a ministerial servant today, you really need to take to heart and you should learn some lessons from that court case right there in Illinois.
Right.
Watchtower did have lawyers, that did have legal representation for those two elders. And it was
Mhm.
interesting because they said in court, talking about the legal representation,
Mhm.
that what they provide is guidance, that it's still up to the elders as to whether or not they're going to follow the guidance. So basically, they completely pull the rug from
Yeah.
underneath those elders, saying, "Yeah, we told you to do it, but you were the ones that, in the end, made the decision to actually do it." You know, in other words, shame on you for listening to us. And that was really striking to me, because we all know that if the legal department, Bethel, however you want to view it, governing body, if they give, we'll just say orders to an elder, then that elder damn well better go and follow those orders, because if he doesn't, he won't be an elder anymore. He'll be
right.
on the spot
That's
by
it.
the circuit overseer.
Right.
So that's a false lie for the legal representatives of Watchtower to say that this was only guidance. It's not guidance. It's law. You don't follow it, and you will suffer the consequences. And the other thing that really touched me on a personal level about that, I was in education for a number of years. I do IT, but I worked for a school system.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
minimum twice a year, we are told that if you see anybody that works at that school, if you see anything inappropriate, whether it's between students or if it's between faculty and students, you are to report it immediately.
Right.
And if you feel like nothing was done about it, then you need to go all the way up to the CEO and tell that person until something was done about it.
Mhm.
And I saw a teacher put his hands on a kid. He bounced him off of a wall.
Whoa.
I called. It seemed like before I even hung up the call, that the number 2 of the entire company was walking in the door, and they pulled that guy out and they fired him on the spot and walked him out of the school. That's how serious they took that. And that wasn't a sexual offense. That was putting his hands on a kid. So that one elder, he was either a professor or teacher of some kind. I believe he was retired. He would have known that Illinois was a mandatory reporting state. He would have taught that a minimum of 2 times every school year. If you see something inappropriate, you must report, you must report, you must report. Minimum 2 times a year. He would know that.
Mhm.
Most institutions take that very seriously for obvious reasons.
Mhm.
And to deliberately ignore that and listen to this legal department and not report it was just shocking to me. And what was the outcome? And you mentioned it. Those 2 elders were found guilty. Yes,
Yeah.
they only got community service, but they were nonetheless found guilty.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I tell you, if this happens again, these next group of elders, they're not going to be so lucky as to just get community service. They might actually wind up in jail or prison because they didn't follow the law and listen to this legal department and not report in those states that require reporting. So these are a lot of lessons that if you're an active witness and you're listening to this, you better be taking this stuff seriously, because you're going to find yourself in jail or prison, like the previous brother just said, because you're listening to these people. And why would you not call the police when a child is being molested? It just,
Oh my God.
it's so, I just can't even wrap my head around. Why would you need to call a legal department instead of just immediately calling the police?
Stefan,
And then the legal department says, oh,
One at a time. One at a time.
Wait,
The first
Wait,
thing,
Pixie, let him finish, honey.
Let him finish.
Yeah, let him finish, Pixie. He didn't get to finish his thought. Go ahead.
it's just the only point, and I know exactly what Pixie's saying, but what I'm saying is that as a human being, and I'm going to just speak to Rich for a second, just male to male. Rich and I, we know we have to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and know that we can live with the decisions that we make. Everybody knows that.
Right.
But you're just speaking from a male perspective. I don't care what. I have to be able to look myself in the mirror and be able to live with the decision that I made. And what I'm saying is I don't understand how a male can look himself in the mirror knowing that a little kid came to him and said, brother so-and-so or whoever it was is touching me, and you just don't do anything about it. How do you live with yourself? I mean, that's just, I don't even have words for that.
Right, right. Oh, Stefan, you're so right
I don't
on.
know what the word is.
Right, right.
Yeah, I don't know
Well,
what the word
what happens, what happens then is you're, yes, I'm sorry, honey. Go ahead. Go ahead. I thought you had stopped. Yeah.
No, I'm listening. I just said I'm going back on mute. I just want to listen.
Okay, honey. I was just going to say, Stefan, that, it reminds me of people when it was during Hitler's time, right? 7 million Jews were murdered, okay, in the gas chambers. And yet, you had the SS soldiers,
Gestapo.
Some of them knew it was wrong. I mean, this is a human being that you're gassing them in the chambers, or you're throwing them in the big ovens there when they're alive. I mean, it was despicable. That's why everybody has a conscience. That there are some things, even if you're given orders, that they're not right. And remember, Rich, we saw that, what was it?
The trial.
The trial. We saw the trial.
Lunenburg.
Yeah. And boy, was it interesting. And there were some that reminded me of, I'll say Nazi JWs, meaning that they were just so indoctrinated. No matter what, they followed the orders, and they felt so justified, and they were doing the right thing. And how dare you consider me as being a criminal because I followed the orders, as a military man. And guess what? They were killed. They were hung. They were found guilty. They were found guilty.
That's exactly
because
right.
What they did is they were involved in atrocities they had no right to do. It doesn't matter if they followed the orders from Hitler. It doesn't matter. And the same thing is true, Stefan, what you're saying. These elders, they better wake up, because you know what? This could very well happen to them. Look at all the elders that they went after in Pennsylvania with regards to with the pedophiles up there. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is like not just in the United States, but this is worldwide in this organization. And it's despicable. And anyone that says, oh, no, this is not true, this is apostates, if they could be a little fly on the wall in those judicial committee meetings with the elders, it'd blow their socks off. They don't even know who the pedophiles are in their congregation, because the elders are told to shut up and keep it quiet. Okay, so and those children are at risk. It's despicable.
They do not care about the children.
They don't.
If you're an elder and it comes across your desk, or you're told that there's a CSA case involving someone in that congregation,
right,
you're supposed to call the service committee and get some legal advice, right? The first question that the attorney or whoever's handling the case beyond the congregation, the first question is, what state are you in? Because the laws are different. Not all states have mandatory reporting. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a state that doesn't have mandatory reporting
of
pedophiles, they tell you, shut up
and don't say anything.
But if you're in a state that has mandatory reporting, then they handle it differently. But my point is, when you call and you tell the
service department.
Yeah, the service department, I was trying to look at the other word they use, service department. They don't say, how's the child doing now? Is the child better? They don't ask any questions about the child.
No,
they just ask, what state is the child in?
Right. Because it's all legal. It's all about Watchtower's image, which is really, really sad.
Yeah. And when I was coming up, and you guys probably remember this too, Watchtower used to always drone on about God's high moral standards and how we try to follow God's high moral standards. But in reality, Watchtower has no moral standards. Their standard is to do as little as possible. Just like you said, when it comes to this thing, hey, if this happened in a state where there's no mandatory reporting, just keep it to yourself and keep it quiet and move on. And if the victim complains or the parents of the victim complain, disfellowship. Right. That's their high moral standard. It's just so obvious that this organization is not of God.
Right. Absolutely. And the thing is that when they have the judicial committee meeting and there's a child that's going in there and talking about that they were sexually abused, sometimes, if it was an elder or whatever, sometimes that pedophile's right there and the pedophile's lying about it.
Yeah.
And Watchtower, the other thing is they always want to know who knows, right, Rich?
That's a big thing.
Who knows about this, right? What do you mean, who knows about this? What's that have to do with anything? I was sexually abused. I'm a child. I'm 10 years old, right? What's that have to do? Because Watchtower's all about their image. Why? Because of lawsuits. They don't want to be sued up the yin-yang. Why is that so important? Because they're not a Christian religion. They're not a religion. They are a business corporation. It's all about money coming in and money going out. And they're trying to watch their butts so that they don't have to spend any more money in lawsuits. So they have this 2-witness rule. Well, if there wasn't a second person, that's okay. Just throw it under the rug, shut up and be quiet. And if you start to say anything to the authorities, we're going to punish you. Yeah, we're going to disfellowship you. So as if you haven't been tortured already being a child with child sexual abuse, now we're going to disfellowship you. You're going to shame you even more. Now you tell me, where's the love of God in that? You tell me, because there isn't any. What about the child's safety? What about the child's mental health? What about all the issues that child's going to have to encounter in life with all these mixed messages and trying to move forward with their mental health? Rich is right. They do get into alcoholism. They do get into drugs. Guess what? They also get into promiscuity as well, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, it felt so great. Wow, I'll go for it. That's fine. I mean, people act out in so many different ways. I hope my friend can come on and I can have an interview. She and I are going to talk soon about that. She was never a JW, but let me tell you, she was sexually abused. And her father, her biological father, yeah, he ended up committing suicide when she was 10. And I told her, good. At least he can't hurt anybody else. And she has a brother and a sister. And anyway, I hope to be able to educate people with regards to pedophiles and how sick and demented they are.
Hi, Constance.
Yes.
Okay, Pixie, you have a comment?
Yeah, go ahead. Whoever's next.
Modest, godly people. That the key point here keeps being missed for the last 2-3 years.
What's that, honey? What'd you say?
The reason they don't want you calling the police, if it was a man, woman, or minor, the first thing the person wants to do after any assault is take a bath.
Take a bath. Yeah, because they feel
the garments need to be in a bag, and the police will tell you that. The emergency room will tell you that with evidence.
Right.
Evidence defeats the 2-witness rule in a court of law.
Right. And we've talked about that before, Pixie, which is great because, there's more people that are new coming in. You go to the emergency room and they do a rape kit. It doesn't matter what age you are. They do a rape kit and they will get samples of the sperm, the semen, and there you go. That's your evidence. That's what Pixie's saying.
And take the dirty garments.
Right. And then it will be definitely given over to the police.
But I've said it for you because that is why they're saying don't go to the police. They don't want the keyword evidence.
Right. They want to cover their own butts. It's all about their own image. Watchtower. That's what it is. Thank you, Pixie. Is there someone else who'd like to chime in? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's me. It's Roland. It's Roland again. Hi.
Wow.
What was going on between all the blood and everything? Also, I found out obviously that my older daughter was abused by an elder while a lot of this was going on. And what he said to her was that he would make my life extremely difficult in the congregation. It was the only thing that was keeping me alive was being there, basically, because it was the only thing I had to hold on to. And if she said anything, that he would basically have me out of the congregation and make life very difficult for me, and then she would end up losing her dad, basically. Now it turned out actually his daughter-in-law has just left his son divorced, and there's a story behind that, but that's for another day. But she said that this man that abused my daughter had abused his son about 40 odd years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The son had gone to the elders and told them, and then his dad, the one that abused him, told the elders that he got mental health issues, and they believed him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's also just been reproved off the platform just recently, only a few months ago, for inappropriately touching up sisters, touching their private areas, nibbling their ears and things like that. So, he's well known. And if he did it to his son, and I know there's a lot of families that had left the congregation because of him. I never found out why, but a lot of them had children, and so I can guess. So these elders probably knew. They certainly knew about his son. And yet they let me leave my daughter with these people. I mean, the thing was, he had two granddaughters, the same age as my two daughters. They were both at school together. His granddaughters used to come round to my house and play with my daughters, and vice versa. He was just like a real family man. I mean, he had so many granddaughters. He had a lot of granddaughters because he's got a few sons.
Yeah.
And he's got daughters with each of them, and his granddaughters with each of those. And a few of them. So I don't know how many he's got, 9 or 10 granddaughters at least. And, so he just come across as a family man. His wife was lovely. He seemed to be lovely. Everybody sort of seemed to see him as the granddad of the congregation. And then I found out 14 years later he'd done that. And the only reason she kept quiet was because she thought that it was the only thing keeping me alive. And in some ways, I guess it was because I was throwing myself into it. I was doing 60 to 80 hours a month ministry as well as working, taking them to school and stuff. But that wasn't the only thing. But she believed that, and she never said anything. And also, he said something like, if you report this, also it'll bring reproach upon Jehovah, upon Jehovah's name. As if like, no, he was bringing reproach upon God's name, not her, not anybody else, him.
Right.
And this is what they do. They say, if you bring this police force in or whatever, you bring in reproach upon God's name. He's involving the worldly forces who are ruled by Satan anyway, according to them. You know what I mean? So you can't win. And like you say, witnesses, what paedophile does anything in front of two witnesses? It's just ridiculous. And, anyway, so there's all that as well. And they are the terrible, terrible religion. First, they'll break your mind, they'll break your heart, they'll break your family. And a lot of people end up losing lives either through the blood or suicide. And I nearly come very close to it a couple of times. It was them that drove me to it. And even in hospital, when I was in a psychiatric hospital, I had a complete breakdown just after my wife died. It wasn't so suicide proof in them days. We've got new hospitals now, but in them days they weren't so suicide proof. I found myself on the floor being resuscitated. I've been dreaming. I got psychosis. I thought I was dreaming. I thought I was sort of hanging myself in a dream. I wasn't. It was real. I was unconscious, and it was all because of the pressure from them. And then they sent 2 elders in while I was in this state, barely knew my own name, and started quizzing me as to whether I knew I was actually trying to commit suicide or not. And if I had said yes, they'd disfellowship me because I tried to end my own life. It was murder in their eyes, self-murder. I didn't even know my name at the time really properly. And I can just remember them going on. And in the end, one of the nurses who had been sat with me because I was under 24 hours observation, they were sat outside the room, and they heard I was getting distressed because they kept grilling me. And they sent them out of the hospital. They wouldn't let them back in. And I mean, so, and it was a nurse that told me a few weeks later when I'd started getting a bit better what had happened, and was saying, you're in a bit of a funny religion there, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I tried to defend it. But, as stupid as it was, I tried to defend it, because that's how brainwashed I was.
to a degree. Yeah.
Well, you know, Roland, you were trying to make the best decisions you could at that time in your life. That's what I wanted to say, you know. You know, sometimes when you're in the forest, you can't even see the trees, you know, you're not awake. You just can't, you know, if there's anything I can say, honey, to make you feel better, you went through a lot. I mean, you went through so much, but you know what, rather than trying to beat yourself up, it's obvious that a lot of these issues were caused because of the JWs, number one. And number two, you're just trying to deal with the trauma the very, very best that you can. These elders that came in, they're not professionals by any means, okay? Some of them mow lawns, some of them are painters, whatever. They're not professionally trained therapists, and they were grilling you and grilling you and grilling you. I would think, honey, if I were you, just try to be very loving and kind to yourself the best way you can, because you tried to make the best decisions in your life at that time with what you had available to yourself. And you know what, hon? That's true for each and every one of us. That's true for each and every one of us. We can beat ourselves up to a pulp, but you know what? You can't change the past, right? You can't. You can learn from it, and you can certainly move forward. But I remember when I went to college, I was talking to my counselor. You know, she had her PhD. She was a wonderful counselor. And I told her I had been a witness, and I felt like I was 12 years behind in my education. I started back at 30, right? Working like crazy and working full time, but also going to school as well. I mean, double working hard. Anyway, and she said, you know, Connie, you made the best decision for what you could at that time in your life. And that gave me a lot of peace. That gave me a lot. She wasn't judging me. I was judging myself the worst because I knew what I had gone through and lived as a witness. Yeah, I was very suicidal too at the very end, and so was Rich. This organization will really mess up with your mind. And the pressure is so intense, and it is so negative, and it is relentless. It doesn't ever, ever stop.
Yep,
and you're never good enough. You never can do enough. There's no time for yourself at all. It's just constantly doing more and more and more. And you feel like you're in this pressure cooker that you get to a point where you're going to frickin' either explode with a mental breakdown, or you're going to commit suicide just to stop the pain. And many of us on here know exactly. And you know what? You know, Roland, you've been through a lot, and we love you very much, and we're so glad that you're here. But that's why we're here, is to help a lot of people, because I've been out many years, Rich has too. But the thing is, there are people that are so conflicted that, you know, we're here to help them. And, you know, honey, what you do, Roland, what you do is you take it one day at a time. That's all you do, love. You take it one day at a time, especially when you're in a crisis mode, because you can't, you're in so much pain. You're in so much pain emotionally that it physically hurts. You know, you can't even sleep because there's so much trauma that's going through your mind. Your body just aches. And all you want to do is just to ease the pain. You just want to feel normal. You just want to be able to relax and enjoy life. And you can't, because this organization just wants more and more and more and more. And it's never enough. But that's my suggestion, honey, is, you know, thank goodness you're on here, that we can help you, and others can as well. But you need to be very loving to yourself. You need to be very kind to yourself. When you're tired, you take a nap. If you have the money, you take a vacation. Just get away from all of it and take a deep breath and give yourself an opportunity to just breathe and think about, my God, is this what I really want to do? Is this the price that I have to pay to get into paradise? Or even, you know, if it's a heavenly hope.
Is this spiritual?
Is this really spiritual?
Yeah.
Is this really what God's all about? And the answer is no. I just would like to say one other thing, if I may, because boy, the time has gone by fast.
Yeah.
This might be a benefit to many of you. I don't know if it's coming through backwards, but you know, John Ledger has his wife, her name is Bethany Ledger, Leger. And Craig, I want to thank you. Our friend Craig from Florida sent this to us as a love gift. We were going to buy it. And he said, no, don't do that. So we just received it. It's called Burning Down the House. Okay. Coping with Toxic Family Dynamics, Estrangement, and Rebuilding Your Life. Now you can get this on Amazon. I don't know what it is, but this is Beth. This is John's wife. She was born and raised to JW for 30 years. Father was an elder, the perfect JW family. You got the whole gist of how that was. Anyway, I am probably, let's see, on page 112. I'm about halfway through. But she does talk about what it's like to be in a toxic family where you can't even share your thoughts as she was growing up about anything that you disagree with the organization. She was just slapped down. And she eventually disassociated herself so she didn't lose her mind. But anyway, it's a book that John mentions on his channel, and I would highly recommend it. There's parts here that I haven't gotten to yet. I sort of scanned through. Let me just share this if I may. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I really do want to put a plug in for this because it can help you heal. It's all worth it. She has a chapter here. It's chapter 5 talking about boundaries and why it's so difficult to set boundaries with toxic family. Okay. Watchtower never taught any of us about setting boundaries. Watchtower has no boundaries. So most Jehovah's Witnesses don't even know what a boundary is and how to set it. And then she talks about key tips for setting boundaries with toxic family and drawing the line. Then she also talks about therapy. Anyway, it's a very, very good book, and I would really highly recommend it. Our show is here to help others, but there's other avenues too for people to be able to heal. And I just wanted to share that love with all of you. Okay. Anybody else would like to chime in? We have like another 10 minutes. We'd love to hear from you.
I'd like to say something.
Yes. Hi.
Hello?
Hi.
I've been listening to you, and I appreciate everything you say, but I've been going to the Kingdom Hall since 1962.
Oh, wow.
And what I've seen and what I experienced is that it's no different than a person joining the Ku Klux Klan, the neo-Nazis, or joining a group that hates people, Bloods, Crips, all that. Once you indoctrinate people, it's hard getting them back to the normal society of life. Yeah. And they're not normal no more after they go through those type of cults. Right. And the thing about it is, when I was young, when I was 10 years old, my mother told me that Armageddon's going to happen in 75 and the world's going to end and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. I would say, well, what about the people who are in different countries that witnesses are there? But to make a long story short, what I want to say is that it makes it affects you mentally, physically, and it affects your decisions what you're going to make in your life. And really, it's not normal. It is not normal living as a witness, because most people who go to church, they go to church on Sunday, they throw their money in, and they pass around, and they go live their lives. Well, witnesses, totally different. Right. Totally different. And with the blood issue and with the CSA issue, they don't care because it's a corporation. And people can't divide from a corporation from serving God, Jehovah God. And that's why they don't read the Bible. And once you read the Bible and you understand what the Bible says, you're like, that's not what it says.
That's right. That is so true.
Yeah, brother.
Man, brother, you are so right on.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic analogy. When you compare them to Ku Klux Klan, neo-Nazi, skinheads, Hell's Angels, anything like that, where they're just mean and bad and they don't love.
It's our way or the highway.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy because that's what the Watchtower is like. Yeah. I mean, they dress it up. Right. They put lipstick on a pig, whatever, but it's still a nasty, nasty organization where three guys, one's a window washer, the other one drives a school bus, like in my case, and the other one paints houses, right? And they're going to, I had deep psychological problems. You know, I had 2 kids, and we don't care about any of that stuff. You committed adultery. They don't. No circumstances they care about.
Yeah. Was there something else, brother? Yeah, we'd love to hear what you have to say. Yeah.
Well, when I was 30 years old, they wanted me to be a circuit overseer because I was young and I was black. And they go, well, we need circuit overseers because we don't have hardly any black circuit overseers. I'm like, well, the Catholic Church already have people in the hierarchy of the Catholic religion. Why are you doing this now? And you have a lot of racism, and you have a lot of people who are elders that I know now that were kids that are elders now. They couldn't take care of my pet dog because they are not educated. They are taught to disfellowship people. They are taught a different way. And it takes people who understand the mental, that understand family values, to understand everybody's different.
Right.
I tried to commit suicide when I was a kid, and I tell you, it is hurtful. I grew up with that. And I tell you, you walk in there and you don't know how to live no other different way, which makes it bad.
Right.
My parents, they lived a different way. When we got older, and I'm 72 years old, I don't have life insurance. Most of the people I know don't have nothing, absolutely nothing. They gave it all up. Now all of a sudden you sit in the hall and they go, well, you can go to college now. I'm like, what? You can take blood now. What?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
It's just
You're in our generation, brother. You are. Yep, definitely. Our age. Yep, definitely.
And then when I bought a house when I was in my 50s, I committed a crime because I bought a house being black in a white congregation. They thought, how can you afford a house? It's just, to me, it's just stupid. It's all stupid. It all has to do with your money going up to the New York. They go, well, we don't take collection plates. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Because every you buy magazines. Every assembly hall, you stuff money in the contribution box.
That's right.
Every time, it's all about money. It ain't about life. It's about money. And that brother who's overseas, my heart goes out for him. And I really pray that he stays strong because Jehovah is the one that's going to judge everybody in the end. The first place he's going to strike is up there in New York, wherever they are. He's going to take care of them for all the lies they've been telling.
Yeah.
You can't do that to people's lives.
No, you can't.
People want to know about God, and they have a journey to know about God.
Right. And so many of them are very sincere.
One thing, and I'm going to hang up. I got to say this one thing. We had the memorial.
Yeah.
My wife said, let's go to the memorial. After the memorial, I go, what was that about? She looked at me. I said, look at this sign. It says, the death of Jesus Christ. They never mentioned nothing about Jesus Christ's death. They pass around the plate, they pass around the wine, but no one's partaking. That's not for you. That's for people who are going to heavenly hope. And that's never been fulfilled years ago. So why are we sitting here?
Right.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
They don't talk about Jesus' death. They don't talk about Pilate's wife. They don't talk about nothing. All they do
you are so,
isn't he great?
Brother, you are so right.
Yeah, you're great.
They want the rank and file to believe that the blood of Jesus doesn't cover their sins, only the sins of the governing body.
That's not what the Bible teaches.
That's what the Bible teaches.
He died for all mankind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brother,
yeah.
You know, what you were verbalizing for the last 10 minutes, I just want you to know that that's well said, really well said.
Yeah, because people don't know how to live. Once I was raised like this, so I was in kindergarten. I don't have no outside friends except for one. You're not supposed to live like that. You're supposed to go to school, have friends in school, then find out where your life is at, and grow up with the people in your neighborhood, in your vicinity, and pick a wife that knows you. Not somebody that plays magazines and sit in a hall with a skirt down to her ankles. And then don't know how to cook or clean because she stay all her life in the Kingdom Hall place of magazines that don't know nothing physically or sexually, don't know how to cook or clean or that. It's stupid. It's all stupid.
Yeah, he's so real. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, and it reminds me, brother, of someone who's like abusive, like in a relationship, they want to just dominate. Say, for example, dominate the wife. They want to isolate her, keep her away from everyone because they don't want the outside world to know that he's abusive to her, whether it's emotional or physical or verbal. Okay. Right. And that's how Watchtower is. You're so isolated in this little insular bubble of a world.
Cancun.
Yeah. And, don't have anything to do with the people on the outside, but deep down inside, there's no difference between an abuser in a marriage or a relationship versus, Watchtower, because Watchtower is has been abusive to all of us. Just keep it quiet. It's all about the image. Shut up. We got the white picket fence out in front. Shut up. Be quiet. It's the same thing.
Right. They're trying to change this, but I think their problems are the elders in the congregation, period. Mm-hmm. They're unqualified. They don't know what they're doing. They're raised as witnesses. They have they don't know nothing about outside relationships. They don't know nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
Well, and then what about many of them are not even fathers. And in governing body members, let's talk about them. The only one that was a father was, what's his name, Rich?
Tight Pants
Tony, that's right. And the other GBs, they're not fathers. So how many elders in the congregation? Rich was one that was a father. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of families, husband and wives, what I'm talking about, that don't have children. So you got a judicial committee meeting going on, or an elder wants to talk to you, put it that way, not a judicial committee. And it has to do with your children. Maybe your kids are teenagers and they're starting to act out, they want to just sort of have a little bit of freedom. And so there's this elder who has no experience with children. He's going to counsel you. He's going to counsel you. He has no experience about raising kids at all. Who in the hell does he think he is?
Yeah. Well, do your research on Nora and Franz and all the rest of them. They didn't have no kids.
No.
Nora didn't get married till he was 50. Franz never got married.
Right.
Rutherford, he chased women around. And so
he was a womanizer. He was a drunk and a womanizer.
Yeah, he left his wife.
Yeah, he was a drunk and a womanizer.
Yeah, he took this woman.
Yeah.
Traveling with him everywhere he went.
Yeah.
And you do your research on Judge Rutherford. He gave a talk in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when they were burning down the black people in Tulsa.
Yep, I remember that.
He had the big sign there. He didn't talk about it because they walked in there and he got scared. You look it up. It's true. Wow. It's a business, and people don't know how to live other than that.
Right.
Because you change their lifestyle.
Right.
You change everything. And I told my mom, you're not on drugs. Your brother and sister's not on drugs. They're 80, 90 years old. Why'd you change it? Your mother sent your two sisters to Tuskegee. We were supposed to go there.
Tuskegee, yeah.
So, and me and my brothers, we had free, we were smart, and we had a free ride, and we couldn't take it in the 70s and 80s. Right. We couldn't take it.
Are you talking about college?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Free ride.
Your free ride,
Yeah.
Well, that's all I got to say. I'm going to get off this phone because
we just really appreciate you coming in and calling. We've never heard your voice before.
Yeah, can you give us your first name?
I'm going to say Ed. That's what I'm going to say. Because You know why? Because my wife wants to go to the meetings, but all my family.
That's fine.
I understand.
And I know people from California to Pennsylvania and Toronto, and I know about the pedophiles. And the only thing I know, the pedophiles are sitting in the hall right now.
Oh yeah.
And
he's just going to call you 1962.
All right.
Yeah, 1962. Boy, what a year that was. Right after Vietnam.
Yep.
There's a book by Bonnie Zeman called Exiting the JW Cult. Mm-hmm. And she is a therapist, and it's a cheap paperback. Mm-hmm. And it will talk about how to undo some of this. And my recommendation is the public library. If you want to know about etiquette, finances, religion, business, the library has it all for free.
Good. I'll look it up. I looked up stuff in the library years ago on witnesses. And when I was in 7th grade, I looked it up. Yeah. And
this paperback is called Exiting the JW Cult by Zeman, and it is on Amazon. And any used book on Amazon is very good as well.
Well, I'll read it and I'll look it up, but I'm not going. It's just plain and simple,
Yeah.
Because
I understand, but it'll help you deal with what they did to our heads. Especially
I know.
the born-ins like you and me. It's a different world, and it sounds like you're very well adjusted, but you're 72. Now, you could go back to college, and so could I, but I got mad too. I hear you.
Well, I'm doing pretty good because I started a business, and I'm doing very well at it. And most of the people, my wife's friends, are like, well, how can you buy a house at your age? How can you do this? Because we're not sitting in the Kingdom Hall waiting for a stone to drop on your head. And I'm going to say this. When Armageddon comes, or my brother was talking to me, well, you were in the last stage. This now, I said, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You know one thing? You can't. You look up in the sky, you go, yeah, if the Armageddon happens, you're not going to see it. It's an invisible war. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You have a right to buy a house. This is the United States of America. I'm glad you're
Oh,
home.
yes. You know, brother, I wanted to tell you something interesting. Yeah, years ago, back in the 90s, I met this gal. She was a witness. And I was at work. And anyway, I had an opportunity to meet her. And I didn't know she was a witness at first. She was very, very nice. And then we got to talking. It's like, oh, my gosh, you're a witness. I said, well, I was an ex-witness. And so, she was a lovely person and about the same age. Anyway, so she eventually invited me over to her home. This is San Francisco. Mm-hmm. So I go over there. It was a beautiful home. I mean, it was very, very beautiful. I won't give out any details, but anyway, it was a lovely home. And anyway, so we sat down and talked, and she wanted to know about me. She wanted to know, who I was. She knew where I worked, but she wanted to know my background. Why did I leave the organization and so forth? Okay, so we're getting to know each other. Anyway, she was just a single sister. She had not been married, and she, had this home. And so I was so proud of her. And she said, oh, whatever you do, don't ever tell the elders that I own this home. I guess maybe they thought she was renting it or something. Well, I wasn't going to tell the elders because I was out of the organization, right? I wasn't going back. But, that was just her fear. And I said, well, you know what? I'm really proud of you for being able to buy a home as a single woman here in San Francisco. I said, man, you've really worked hard. This was in the 90s. She says, oh, yeah, I had like 2 jobs. But she says, the elders would sometimes get really inquisitive and I wouldn't really say too much. They pretty much think that I'm just renting the house. And I thought to myself, now, why does she have to try to hide that she's a homeowner? She worked so hard to be able to get the down payment, to buy it, to, pay the mortgage payments and so forth on her own. And, she worked very, very hard for it. I'm telling you, it was San Francisco. Real estate's not cheap. And this was back in the 90s when I met her. I was so proud of her. But, what I'm trying to say is that she was feeling ashamed, like, be quiet, don't tell anybody that, I own this house. And that's the thing about the organization. They don't ever want to build anybody up. Everybody wants to gossip and judge everybody else. And it's just so cruel. It's so negative, It's one thing I never liked about
my wife's relative is not a witness. They invited us over their house when they bought a house years ago. Their whole church was in there. They were giving them money, gifts, and they were congratulating them. And what can we do? Yep. It's not like that with witnesses. Oh, no. It's not like that because they've been taught that not to have nothing, not to do nothing, not to be nothing,
and to be happy to be poor and in poverty, right? Be grateful. Right. But be sure and give all your money to Watchtower. Yeah.
Right. Poor people can be controlled.
Oh yeah.
Period.
Oh yeah.
That's the way they want you.
Right.
And it's a shame because the religion could help a lot of people if they do it the right way. They could help people out. They could be a bigger religion than Catholic Church, but they got these stupid, dumb rules that stop people from living their lives. Yeah. All it is a company. And if you look it up, you got the first, you got the monthly and the weekly. Those are magazines. This is a corporation, and people got to look at it as a corporation. Yep. They formed your life. They build your life around it, period.
Yep. Brother, there's somebody that's on Reddit. I watch Reddit a little bit, not every single day, but I was telling Rich about this story of this brother. He goes by the name Logic Man. I think there's a couple of numbers after it, but that's his name on Reddit. And he was a JW for decades. Okay, just decades. Could have been an elder. I'm not sure, so I don't want to say, but he was in the organization for many, many years. And he and his wife, of course, they've been married and devoted everything to the organization. And now they're, what age did I say, Rich? They're like in their 60s.
Yeah.
Okay. And he might be my age, 70. And the thing is that he's working 7 days a week, 7 days a week. And he said, I have no money. I have nothing saved up. There's no Social Security. There's no retirement. There's no pension. There's no 401. He says, I work 7 days a week. I don't ever get a break. And of course, his medical, there's no benefits. Okay. He has no benefits. So what he works, he has to pay the benefits, of course, medical for he and his wife and dental. I mean, can you imagine being our age, okay, or maybe a little bit younger in your 60s, and you have absolutely no nest egg. And every single day you've got to get up and say, I've got to go to work to earn the money. I've got to go to work to pay the bills. And yet this is when most people are retired, enjoying all the fruits of their labor. And that's because he believed in Watchtower's lies. Okay. And so who's the one that's crying now? It's this brother and his wife. And, you know, Watchtower took all their time, all their money, all their resources, their whole life. Yep. And they have no children. So they can't even, have the children help them. There are no kids. They didn't have any kids because they're waiting for the new system.
Getting back to the pedophiles, I had a pedophile in my congregation. I asked one elder, I go, look, this dude's a pedophile. Why is he in the kingdom hall? Well, he's been forgiven. I said, by who? And he looked at me. I said, who forgave him? You guys? You speak for God? And they go, well, I said, well, what's going to happen if he goes to the assembly hall and he's sitting in his car and the kid goes out and gets something out of the car and he goes, come here. Your mom told me, come here. I said, he shouldn't be in the kingdom hall at all. He shouldn't be around kids.
Right.
So I don't want to hear that.
Right.
I don't want to hear that.
Right.
I know people in Pennsylvania rape kids. I know people in Maryland and California and up in Canada who are child molesters. I know them personally. And they sit in the kingdom hall and it's sickening. You hear me?
Yeah, they'll disfellowship somebody for adultery. And they'll say that person's a threat to the congregation.
Or smoking.
But let's just say adultery, because I'm familiar with that one. All right. They remove him from the congregation because he's a sinner. He's an unrepentant sinner, whatever. And they said, because he's a threat to the congregation, the Holy Spirit will be taken away from the congregation. That's what they used to teach.
Like with Achan.
But exactly like with Achan. But here's what they'll do. They'll keep 5 to 6 pedophiles in the congregation and not make an announcement on them.
Right.
And they can be molesting kids in the congregation, but they'll say, well, no, the 2-witness rule. And a lot of people know you've got people that are pedophiles in the organization, and those children are not being protected.
No, they're not. And the parents don't even know. The parents don't even know that there's a pedophile in their congregation.
That's right.
It's because the elders do not say anything. And there's that blue envelope, remember? Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
Well, this younger sister, this years ago, was in my house with my wife. And I told her, hey, it's time for you to go home. It's getting late. And she called up, said, call your parents up to pick you up. And she says, oh, my dad answered the phone and she started crying and screaming. I'm like, what's wrong with you? She goes, oh, no, I want my dad to pick me up. And she went on and on and on and on. Like, something's wrong, I told my wife. And found out that her dad was molesting her as a young kid. And they didn't report it. They didn't say nothing. And then in another hall, they did the same thing. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And you know what thing? And if you believe in God and you believe in Jehovah God, there's a reckoning coming. Maybe not in your lifetime, but it's going to come.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to feel it. They're they're going to fill it up in New York.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's not right.
Right.
It's not right.
And then what's interesting, brother, is what you're bringing up is, see, when someone has gone through the sexual abuse, they're thinking, you know, whether they were a JW or not, right? I sort of look at the full spectrum there. How could there be a God? How could there be a God if he allows this to happen to me? So in the JW world, what happens is that when they are able to leave the organization, it's not a religion, but leave the organization, a lot of times they're very angry and very bitter, and rightfully so. And they don't want anything to do with God, because especially if they were born in, because it's like, how could there be a God that really loves me when he allowed this to happen? Okay. And so they walk away being an atheist, which is so very, very sad. It has a lot of devastational effects. I'm telling you, you know, it really, really does.
What Bible are they reading? When King David's son raped Tamar, you know, Absalom wasn't killed him.
Right.
What Bible are they reading?
Right. Right.
He took revenge on that.
Right.
And when what they say, what was the one that went down there and she got raped and they killed all the people when they told them to get their to be you know, not casted, but they killed them. I forget Dinah, but they don't talk about that. They talk about, well, she went down there and she shouldn't have been there. Wait a minute, she got raped. Nothing about her being raped.
Right. They just cherry pick. They
killed them all.
Yeah, they just cherry pick.
What Bible they read?
Well, and they don't even bring up that scripture that talks about, you know, if you did something, if an adult did something to harm a child, there'll be a millstone wrapped around your neck and thrown into the bottom of the ocean.
Thrown in the ocean.
Right.
So what Bible are they reading with this child molestation?
Right.
And with blood, that's crazy.
Right.
It's absolutely insane. But once you train a person to believe in all this and being in a religion, it's hard for them to go out and live their life as a normal life.
Right.
Life is not normal, but at least you can find some normality in it, you know, with your family.
Right. Well, they use a tremendous amount of fear, because if you start to question the governing body members, what they teach, or, you know, the organization, and you leave, oh, God forbid, you're gonna die at Armageddon.
Yeah, you're an apostate.
You're an apostate, and Jehovah's gonna hate you, and you know, and that's where the suicide comes in. That's exactly where it comes in, because it's like, it's like, okay, well, now I've really done it, and you know, maybe whatever the sin might be, and Jehovah really hates me, which is the biggest lie ever, okay? Because God says, I've forgiven your sins from the east, from the west, you know, they're white as snow. And Jesus said when he died, it's finished. Watchtower doesn't teach anything that the Bible teaches. It's just a bunch of nonsense.
The person that committing suicide says, well, I'll go to sleep and wake up and I'll be, you know, resurrected.
Right.
That's their thinking, because they can't take the pain anymore.
Right. But then Watchtower, when I was in, brother, they had a thing that if you committed suicide, you would not be resurrected. See, it's just all man-made rules. They're just man-made. God can really see pain and suffering. They are. That's what it is. And when people can finally see that, and they can really,
I got where in the Bible do they get that they won't be resurrected from? Because if I remember right, God says there will be a resurrection of both the righteous and the unrighteous.
Right.
Now, if you look at the unrighteous, that would be everybody that committed suicide and all that. So everybody, every human being is going to be resurrected at some point or another. But Watchtower, I don't know where they get the idea.
Because they said murder. You're committing murder to yourself.
Yeah,
and that's unforgiven sin. That's what they say.
They still can't claim he won't be resurrected, because that's not in the Bible.
Elder in the congregation, the boy blew out his brain some years ago, and one elder, me and him were talking about it, and he wrote to the society about giving the memorial service, and it was so up and down, you didn't know what to answer. They said he committed murder, and murderers will not inherit God's kingdom. Then they went on to say, you know, people have mental problems, this and that, and it's up to them. It's just crazy. They're vague with it.
Yeah.
I mean, said it's really crazy because every human being will be resurrected. It's like when they kind of went back on their deal about, I think it was about the deal about the flood. You know, I think at one time no one from the flood would be resurrected, but then they kind of backtracked on that one. Well, if the people from the flood will be resurrected, then certainly a person who kills themselves, they would be resurrected. Now, they may experience judgment, but God will resurrect them because the Bible says, the righteous and the unrighteous.
The righteous.
Yeah, and he talks about the first and second resurrections. The first resurrection is of course, and the second resurrection is the ones where they're resurrected to damnation.
Right. But that's, if you call them up, if you call them up Monday, they wouldn't give you a straight answer.
So I was going to say, where does Watchtower get the idea? How do they know, or what do they come up with that they won't be resurrected? Did God actually just tell them in one of their secret meetings that they hold?
They make it up as they go along. It is in the realm of because I said so.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah.
It's not in the Bible. There's a white throne judgment for everybody, the wicked and the damned and the good. And Jesus died between a murderer and a thief. So if they read the book, they'd have a different playbook than the one they have, because the one they have is called Because We Say So.
Yeah, well, and their New World Translation is their personal translation. When you're at the Kingdom Hall, they don't want anybody reading any other translation except their own. And when you go back and you,
their translation also comes from Johannes Griever as well.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. He was a spirit medium. That's the occult right there. Yeah. That's where their spirit comes from. Is from the occult.
You know how many times they rewrite the Bible? How many times they rewrote the Psalm books? How many times they rewrote all these books? I got a pink Psalm book, brown Psalm book, gray Bible, black Bible, red Bible, green Bible.
Yep.
You're writing all this stuff over and over and over and over and over because they're wrong.
The Truth Book, all of the books, so many people came into the organization because of the Truth Book, which is the one we had studied back in the day. And yet, they've thrown all that away. All those books are all gone now. They don't even use them anymore. They're gone. How were they inspired by Jehovah God if they've deleted all of them, threw them all out?
Yeah, so what happens when you go to the Kingdom Hall, say, for example, using an older Bible? Now, it's the Bible. They say it is, and they claim it's God's word. So what would they tell you if you use that Bible?
They'll tell you you're behind the times. If you even using a Jehovah's Witness Bible, say from the 60s, you can't use that, brother. It's outdated material. Well, how can it be outdated material if our Heavenly Father's Holy Spirit wrote it? Yeah, how can it be outdated? But they omit scriptures.
You know what I would do if they told me that? I would say, "Thank you, sir, or ma'am, or whoever it is." I said, "Thank you, sir, for letting me know that your religion is not true."
Right.
May I say something?
Yes, go ahead. John 8's a perfect example of that, Rich. Yes, go
Hi,
ahead.
yes, this is Nicole.
Yeah,
so they're gonna say it is belief clarified, and on the website there's a belief clarified section for over 100 years of belief clarified. So if a person were to go back and use one of the old books, they will say that you're not keeping up with Jehovah's Celestial Chariot, and you're not following theocratic arrangement. So people, please don't read the older books. Don't read the older books. If you want to keep up,
the Bible was good for over 2,000 years, and now it's not even good for 1 decade.
Wow. Well, they took out John 8.
But
now it's just a footnote.
What's going to happen, though? This is what I think is going to happen. If you could stay alive for 100,000 years, I wonder how many Bibles they will have invented or rewritten from today to the next 100,000 years.
Well, brother, that's a really good point. The book of Revelations tells you if you add to the Bible or subtract from the Bible, you are cursed. Well, the Watchtower is cursed.
Yeah. Because the silver sword is the latest one that they have. Yeah, they keep changing it. And John 8's the situation about the woman that came in and the Pharisees wanted to stone her, remember? Because apparently she committed adultery. And they said, well, Rabbi, how would you handle this? And Jesus said, for any of you that has never sinned, throw the first stone. Well, they had all sinned. So he had them there. But the point I'm trying to make is if you go into the silver sword, let me just finish, Donald, please. If you go into the silver sword, you'll see that Watchtower left that out, that it's John 8.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
And they have just a footnote. Now, just think about that. Why would Watchtower do that? Because we know that the majority of people who have been disfellowshipped, it's because of immorality, whether it's fornication or it's adultery. Okay. People could just very well say, like Rich, for example, what are you doing? Disfellowshipping me. I committed adultery. I know I was wrong. And I
confessed it to you.
I confessed to it, so it shows I'm repentant.
I didn't get caught.
Right. And the thing is that, they thought they had the right to be able to disfellowship him. Well, if you pulled up John 8, you'd say, well, wait a minute. Jesus, this was an example of the woman who committed adultery and the Pharisees wanted to stone her to death. And even Jesus said, you know what, woman, I don't judge you. Go and sin no more. So what right do you have as elders to try to disfellowship me and destroy my whole life, my family, and everything I've worked for? What, you think that you're better than God?
Yeah.
You think you have more power than Almighty God?
Yep. Yeah, that's why they removed it, so they can throw the first stone.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And most witnesses, I guess they don't even look at their Bible to realize it's deleted and it's just a little footnote.
Yeah.
John 8. Look
Right
at
there, that whole story deals away with the disfellowshipping thing altogether, because instantaneously Jesus forgave her right then on the spot. He didn't say, well, come back in a few weeks or we're going to hold a meeting. And he didn't do that. No, he forgave her. Snap of the finger, instantaneous.
Hello, let me just say this one thought, honey. Just 1 second, please. That's because of his tremendous love and grace he has for mankind.
Absolutely.
You will never, ever learn that in a kingdom home. You will never, ever learn that. Okay?
Yeah. Folks, we're a half hour over.
Wait, can you let this one brother make a comment, Rich? Okay, brother, go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I've been listening to your program and I really enjoy it. But I do have to make a correction about something you said about John 8, chapter 8, 1 through 11.
Okay.
They took that out of the Bible because it's not in the original scriptures. It's not in the original Bible writings. And I researched that. And a lot of archaeologists and scribes, they all agree that it was not in the original Bible writings. It was added in the Bible sometime during translation. So I mean, I just want to be fair about it. Look, I don't agree with the Watchtower. There's some really bad people, but the truth about John chapter 8, 1 through 11, it was deleted. It's also deleted in other Bibles too. I have about maybe 15 different versions of the Bible. So I'm not taking them for the Watchtower, but I do have to say that they deleted it because it was not in the original Bible writings. And you can say, well, they took it out because they don't want to. They don't want people using it to protect disfellowship people. But anyway, that's my comment.
Well, it's okay. I mean, we respect that. But I would like to do some research on that myself.
But it backs up the woman at the well story as well. It's one of the best stories in the Bible. And the Bible says not to have critical scribes and Pharisees, and that's what they do.
Well, I respect your opinion on that, brother, but I would like to do research on that for myself to find out.
Right.
So thank you. Thank you for sharing.
And I've done research and found that out to be the case as well. And also the scripture where they talk about the dancing with the snakes and all that, that was added as well. And then Pixie just mentioned the person at the well. I haven't discovered that yet, but she's mentioning that was added. So there are added things that weren't, we don't have the originals really, except for like.
No, what I'm saying is that the story of the woman and the stoning is backed up in principle by the scripture that is in there, where he forgives the woman at the well. So it's a principle that's repeated with the other spurious scripture that's such a good story of the woman at the well and Jesus writing in the dust where he's probably taken names.
Possibly.
If you get a chance to see, it's from a novel. Martin Scorsese's The Last Temptation of Christ is not a Bible picture. It has a wacky ending, but the first hour and a half is visually, musically, and scripturally great. But remember, it's from a novel. It's not trying to be biblical. But when Willem Dafoe is in that scene with that woman, it is good.
Yeah, Constance.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I do a lot of personal Bible studying, you know, because I was once a Jehovah's Witness, and the way that I healed myself from the indoctrination from the Watchtower was to research the Bible and what does the Bible really teach. I researched it for myself. Now I'm getting the information from the information that is available to me today, and I'm using archaeology, the Young's Concordance of the Bible. I have these other Bibles. I can't think of the name of them right now, but they're kind of like a dictionary Bible. And you know, one of the things, and one of the things that I have found, and I'm going to shoot you straight with this, is that nobody studies their Bible. Jehovah's Witnesses and people who leave the congregation, you know, go to your Bible, study it, research it. It's hard to find the time to do it, but I have several notebooks full of notes. I have a lot of different information that I research, and I'm doing it for my personal self, to heal myself. And you'll be surprised at the information you find. Now, the Watchtower has deleted several things in the Bible. Okay. And I personally feel that the John chapter 8, 1 through 11, you know, why do you have to delete that? Even if it wasn't in the original scriptures, it's a good example of how Jesus showed love towards this woman and forgiveness. But the point is that it is not in the original biblical writings, ancient writings, and there's several Bibles that have deleted that John chapter 8 verse 1 through 11. So just research it, and you'll be surprised at what you find.
Can I comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Agree. I just was listening on speed, and I finally caught up. This we talked about on the in the after party last week, I think it was. I agree with that brother. In the Green Bible, it explains that those verses in John, certain manuscripts did not include them. And also what Linda just mentioned about the snake handling, I think that is in that portion in the Green Bible, they had small print, you know, just like they had John 8th chapter, small print, 1 through 11. They had small print, and it was called it said Mark long conclusion, and it said Mark short conclusion. I think those two parts come up at the end of the book of Mark, and certain manuscripts don't include them. So that's why they put them small print in the old Green Bible. Okay, that was all.
Okay, thank you, Zachary.
One more thing about Johannes Grieber, if I could. I've heard that a few times now that the New World Translation is based off of Johannes Grieber's Bible. And I have not found that to be true. I have found that they use John 1:1. They refer to Johannes Grieber to confirm their definition or their writing of a God on John 1:1, but not the whole New World Translation. They use him as a confirmation for saying a God at John 1:1. I left about 7 years after I left. This crazy lady who talked to gave me.
I'm not sure about that.
And okay, and so it was a stack of tapes of, and I'm just joking. I'm just saying it in jest. And she scared me because you got to talk to her. That's what I heard about her. So she gave me this stack of cassette tapes of Dr. Walter Martin. And Dr. Walter Martin he's the writer of The Kingdom of the Cults. He's who started the Bible Answer Man, which was a radio show. Hank Hanegraaff took over on it after Dr. Walter Martin died. I even got to speak to him once. I called in, a matter of fact, about the suicide question, will God resurrect? And Dr. Walter Martin said, I can't see why not, because you're really not in your right mind, So when he said that, it made sense that he wouldn't be someone probably wouldn't be held accountable to not being in their right mind. But what I wanted to say about those cassettes is there's a gentleman talking about people don't really look at scripture. I spent 3 years straight trying to just confirm Dr. Walter Martin. I had no clue who he was. I wanted to just confirm this guy, and everything he said was right. By the end of those 3 years of me researching all kinds of Watchtower literature, all kinds of, interlinears and concordances, which is, that brother earlier might have been thinking that when he said a book that kind of gave definitions, a concordance is something you'd look up a word or a belief system, and they give explanations of different scholars and what their views are on it. So that's what a concordance is. So, and I had the aid book. So like this little stack of things. So yeah, I'm just mentioning that I don't think Johannes Grieber is the foundation of the New World. The reason I mentioned Dr. Walter Martin is he claimed that the kingdom interlinear that we had was in fact accurate, the Greek version of it. And I don't think he would have said that if Johannes Grieber was the foundation of the New World translation of the Greek interlinear. That's just where it's coming from. Okay, that was it.
Well, it's okay. That is one person's opinion on that. But it's also good to go into Bible Hub, because Bible Hub has a lot of translations, and you can make comparisons on that when you do your research for the Bible. But my point is that anything that's involved with the occult is going to be definitely adulterated, And Watchtower, I mean, there's so much with regards to Watchtower being connected to the occult. Even if you don't totally agree with Johannes Grieber on that comment, but I was going to say just the fact that you had Russell going back to where was he going? To Egypt. I'm getting a little tired. Yeah. Going to Egypt and checking out the constellation, and it was all tied into the occult and so forth.
Numerology
and the Masonic temple.
The height of the pyramids, the width, all that stuff there.
Well, and I had grandparents that were deeply involved in the Masons. And my grandfather was a Mason, and my grandmother was an Eastern Star. It's extremely demonic. You can go on YouTube and check. So, Watchtower has a lot of connection with the occult. That's for sure. Okay, so do you think we should close, Rich?
I think so. I think
it's been a great show.
We're like
we're way beyond
45 minutes into Rick's program. So I want to thank everybody for calling in tonight.
Connie,
can I ask for clarification?
Yes, go
Connie
ahead.
and Rich, it's Wendy from Grass Valley. Are you there?
Oh, Wendy from GT.
Hi, Wendy. Hi, ladies.
Hi, honey. How are you? For Glad Tidings.
I'm good. I watch you guys in your midst here in Grass Valley.
Yes.
I just love you guys. I met Connie and Rich at a church here in California. I was raised Jehovah's Witness also.
Yes.
Pretty crazy stuff. And I got saved and met Jesus Christ in 2012. And I am just planting seeds for my family, my mom. They're all still witnesses. I plant the seed and God waters the harvest. So I just keep praying for her salvation, that they come out of the blindness. So the Bible says that we pray that the eyes of their understanding be enlightened. And so I'm just praying with you guys, and I love you, and I'm watching you here in California. So I hope you guys are
Oh, honey, we love you. Thank you. And I was talking to you the other day on Facebook, and I'm sorry your mom had a heart attack, but it's never too late to wake up from the JWs, that's for sure. And we're so glad that you're out. It's such a pleasure to meet you all the way in Grass Valley, honey. Yeah. We really miss you.
She didn't have a heart attack, but it's close. So she was not doing good, like almost had a heart attack, and I had to call her twin sister to get the ambulance. But it just shows like she let me pray for her, and I just lifted her up. I started speaking in tongues. I was like, by God's stripes, you are healed. It is resurrection weekend. And I said, Jesus thought about you. And she said, amen. And then she said, are you going to baptize me too? And I said, well, you brought it up. We can. So wow. Really opening some stuff in her. So God bless you guys. I love you. You're missed. And thanks for doing what you're doing, guys.
Thank you, honey. We love you for chiming in. And anytime, always don't ever be a stranger. Always feel free, okay?
Okay, well, God bless you all, and we thank you for what you do. Keep telling the truth, speaking the truth, and amen.
Thank you, love.
Amen.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you, dear.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye, honey. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Rick, for that little
was great.
extra 10 minutes there.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, well, what we do here, Dick, the most important thing, and we said it right in the beginning 20 years ago, if we have people calling in, and boy, we had a lot calling in tonight. You guys are really gaining a lot of momentum. So the most important thing is listening to the callers. When we get callers calling in, that is therapeutic. It means a lot. It means a lot to so many people. And that's the comments I get here every week. They enjoy the callers. So thank you, Dick and Constance, and all the callers that called into the program tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Take care and God bless.
We love you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, we're going to go to JW World News. Of course, that's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about, but we talk about it every Saturday night and every other Sunday right here on the Six Screens Tele-Network. So stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot to talk about coming up next.